Okay, just a few seconds. Okay, we're live on YouTube. The meeting is yours, Madam Chairwoman. Let me know if you need anything.
I will. Thank you, Brian. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josephine Spencer, and I'd like to welcome you to the White Lake Township Zoning Board of Appeals. This board is a quasi-judicial board, which consists of 5 members. In order for your variance to be granted, you must receive a majority vote from the full board. In order for this board to grant a variance, you must prove a practical difficulty exists. Unfortunately, personal circumstances or financial hardships cannot be considered by this board. If your variance is granted, you have 6 months to obtain the required permits, or your variance will expire and you must reappear before this board. If your variance is denied, you have the right to appeal this decision. By state statute, you must appeal to the circuit court and have 30 days to file an appeal. There is no other township board that can overrule this decision. All cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. I will call the case, staff will give their review, and the proponent will have 20 minutes to speak. The board will then ask questions of the proponent, and then the public hearing will be opened. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes to do so. We ask you please state your name and address for the record. After the public hearing is closed, the proponent will have 5 minutes to address any questions or concerns. It will then be brought back to the board for consideration, a motion, and a roll call. And with that, Hannah, I am calling the meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Yep. Shellac,
Present.
Powell,
He's muted. Mr. Powell, you're muted.
Thank you. Present.
Sieber,
Here.
Spencer,
Here.
Dave Walls is excused. DeHart.
Here.
That's everyone.
Thank you, Hannah. And can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
I have a few things about the agenda. I'm sorry, not the agenda.
Okay.
I'll pause.
Are you making a motion on the agenda, Nick?
I'll make a motion to pass the agenda.
And do we have a support?
Support.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor of
Should
the
be a roll-
approval of the agenda with Nick making the motion and Mike supporting it? Please say aye.
Anna needs to do a roll call vote for everything on Zoom.
That's right. I forgot. Thank you very much. Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Shellac,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
DeHart,
Yes.
Sieber.
Yes. Joe, you're muted.
Thank you. The regular meeting of October 22nd, 2020. Nick, you said you had some comments?
I'm sorry, it was about the minutes.
Right, that's where we're at right now.
So page 2, under the planner's report, paragraph 3. Mr. Quagliati, please tell me I pronounced that correctly. Did I?
No, Quagliata. That's fine.
Quagliata. I'm so sorry. I'm going to work on that because when you see my name, you'll know how much
You
pain
can
it
say
costs.
Q, and that's
I'm solidarity. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Help me out. Quagliata.
Quagliata.
Quagliata. Okay. Said the height standard came from, and then we don't know for sure what that is after that sentence.
Yeah, we'll have to address that.
Okay.
We'll have
Okay.
to, yeah. We'll have
So
to,
that's,
yeah.
yeah. that's one thing. I'm not going to be trying to be persnickety here, but if we go down to page 3, there was a phrase "work done to." Let me try to find that now.
You said page 3.
Yeah, page 3 under the votes. It was shellac, yes. There was a practical difficulty and work had been done to, and then we don't have the rest of that. And the same thing with Spencer right below me. There was a practical difficulty and
I think that we should strike "and work has been done to" on following your statement, and then after this chair statement, just strike that word "and." I think
Okay.
the most relevant thing is that you've identified there was a practical difficulty.
so then after mine strike, there was a practical difficulty and just strike period, like just put period.
I would say, yes, there was a practical difficulty, period, and then strike "and work had been done to."
Okay. And then page 6, because I'm that obnoxious English person that people had to deal with all the time. We have under our votes, the reasons stated. I'm struggling to find the reasons stated anywhere.
It's a good call.
So I'm just going to pause right there and just let that be because I've talked enough, but not trying to be that person, but I just want to make sure the public record is the public record and that we're accurate.
We don't have to adopt these tonight, so we'll bring them back next Thursday. So, well, let's make changes.
So does that in any way jeopardize anybody who is waiting on any work projects at all that we passed last time?
No, because we can move forward with the draft minutes, because I think the intent is there and we know what action
Okay.
is taken.
So am I open to make a motion to table the minutes pending amendments, or does that make things
I don't even think you would
more
need to table
complicated
it.
than it?
Oh, you could do that if you wanted to. You could table the minutes, or we could just move on and say we're not going to take action tonight on the minutes. So
Okay.
either or, because if you table it, then next time you'll have to, you're supposed to vote to take something off the table. If you table it.
My personal preference would be not to pass them at the moment.
Then if the board is in agreement, we will not act on the October 22nd, 2020 minutes until our next meeting, which will be 1 week from today.
Right. Yeah.
Board member, are we all good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. With that then, moving on, our first case is a tabled case from the 15th of October, so we will need to remove this from the table, if I'm correct, Justin.
Correct.
And with that, do we have a motion and a support to remove from the table, please?
I'll make a motion to remove from the table.
Thank you, Nick. And a support? Thank you. Thank you, Cliff. So with that, it has been a motion and a support to remove from the table. All in favor, please, with a roll call vote. Hannah?
Oh, yep. Shellac,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Powell.
I'm abstaining.
Yeah, right. DeHart,
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes, and if the board will recall, this was a case where we did Mr. Powell to recuse himself, and he is once again going to recuse himself and leave the meeting so that we can continue. And with that, SLT Properties LLC. The location is 10201 Joanna K. Avenue, also identified as 1222-427-003. The applicant is requesting to construct a second-story addition to a single-family house requiring variances from Article 3.1.6.e, R1D, single-family residential, front yard setback, side yard setback, minimum lot area, and the minimum lot width. A variance from Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures, will be required due to both the value of improvements and the increase in cubic content. For the record, 20 owners or occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance. No letters were received in favor, no letters received in opposition, and no letters returned by United States mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members. This case was tabled from the October 15th meeting. At that time, the applicant requested variances from the side yard setback to construct a second-story addition. And I'm going to try to share my screen here, so bear with me. So if everyone can see my screen up on the monitor, or if you can see my screen on your screen, the survey of the property is shown right now. This is 10201 Joanna K. It's located on Oxbow Lake and zoned R1D, single family residential. The existing one-story house is approximately 645 square feet in size. The applicant's proposing to construct a second story on this house. It is non-conforming, the first floor. It's located 2.56 feet from the side lot line at the southwest corner and 3.17 feet from the northwest corner, 6.22 feet from the northeast corner, and then 21.08 feet from the front lot line. There's a minimum 10-foot side yard setback and 30-foot front yard setback in the R1D zoning district. The applicant had proposed a second story. As you can see on the left-hand side of my screen is the floor plan for the second story prepared by the architect. And they have drawn in the property lines, and this dashed line would be the 5-foot setback from the side lot line of what they're proposing, a 5-foot setback. And then this dashed line around the structure is the roof line. So if you remember, there's a section of the zoning ordinance, Article 5, Section 3, that prohibits roofs, gutters, windows, and open balconies from projecting with closer than 5 feet to a side lot line. So the applicant made sure to revise their plans to demonstrate that they would indeed meet that setback if a 5-foot variance was granted. The request was tabled because the value of work to a non-conforming structure is going to exceed 50% of the state equalized value improvements. And at that time, there wasn't a proposed value of work or an estimated value of work. Since that time, the applicant submitted an estimate for the work. It's $35,368. Our building official did confirm that that is an accurate estimate if the applicant does some work themselves. So based on the state equalized value of the structure at $27,870, this is exceeding the allowed value of improvements by 254%, which is $21,433 over the allowed value of improvements. And then just to cover our bases with the lot size, so in R1D, the minimum lot width is 80 feet and the minimum lot area is 12,000 square feet. This property is 24.9 feet wide at the street line, so they're requesting a 55.1-foot variance for the lot size, and then a 7,034 square foot variance for lot size. So the other one is lot width, 55.1 feet for lot width, 7,034.16 square feet for lot area. The applicant also submitted a letter from a structural engineer, and that's submitted into the packet for your consideration. With that, they are present tonight, the applicant, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Does any of the board members have any questions of staff? All right, if there are none at this time, then the proponent, I'm assuming, is in the room with us, and if they would like to go ahead and give us their request, we'd appreciate it.
Bob, we can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Bob.
I think I'm on. Hello?
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
So Bob, just go ahead and let us know what you want.
Bob, I think we're having the same issue that we had last time with your connection. You're breaking up and freezing up on our end.
Staying over into the setback area, we did a redesign of the second story to accommodate that. So that shouldn't be an issue now. Did also have a structural engineer come in and inspect the house. You should have a copy of his conclusions, but essentially there were a couple of minor things that would need to be done, but nothing that would preclude a second story. So that letter of approval saying that second story was feasible was included there with the packet. And then we did also revise the cost estimate, based on current pricing and everything with building materials and so forth. I had already presented my case at the last meeting. If there were any other questions, I'm assuming probably you don't need to hear the whole thing I submitted last time. But if there's any questions, I'd certainly be glad to go over anything that anybody any questions about.
Thank you, Bob. Does any of the board members have any questions for the proponent? Well, if there are none from the board at this time, even though we did have the public hearing last time, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and ask Justin, because it's a different meeting than normal, it's a Zoom meeting, would it be appropriate for me to hold another public hearing on this case, Justin, do you think?
Yes, and we actually did notice a new public hearing for this request. So
Okay, so I will then open the public hearing up. Ryan, do you think there's anybody in the audience that is waiting to be heard on this case?
If there are any of the callers that would like to make a statement, they press *9 to raise their hand, and then I will call on you. We'll wait a few moments here to see if anyone raises their hand. Again, it's *9. Okay, no requests to speak.
Seeing no takers, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for any discussions, considerations, questions, or a motion.
I think I have a question for Justin. I realize a structural engineer has looked at this. Has our building department, or do they look at anything prior to construction? Other than the plans, do they go out and look at the house? That's my question, I guess.
building official is on the call. So if he wants to speak on this, I definitely don't want to speak for him.
Yeah, I can answer. Certainly, we do go out on and take a look at the site. In this case, we have not looked at the structure itself. He has submitted an engineering review on the property, or excuse me, on the structure. And the engineering review certainly is certainly taken into account, and it will be that is granted for this case.
If I can jump in, Debbie, so when the township engineer reviews if the variances are approved and a building permit submitted, when the township engineer reviews it, and if they have conflict with what's submitted, then it's dealt with at that time, but that would be under the jurisdiction of the township engineer if they're going to accept that report or make recommendations for different modifications to the building.
Well, this is actually slightly different because this is a structural report. So
Yeah,
the
I saw
structural
that.
report certainly stands up against all code.
Yeah.
And it will be accepted.
Any other questions of our board members?
Yeah, I think I'd like to make a comment. I think the point that the applicant made, that this expansion brings the house closer to the 1,000 square foot minimum size, and the fact that they secured the services of a structural engineer to analyze the potential for the house to support a second story is a very good idea. And also the fact that this does not expand the existing building footprint. They're not increasing the need for variances on the first floor, and they have made adjustments to the second floor so that the roof overhang does not encroach within the 5-foot requirement.
Thank you. On
6.
that. Yep.
Yes.
With that then, does anybody wish to entertain a motion?
Well, I guess that's me.
I was going to say, it's not me. I can't do it.
All right. I move to approve the variances requested by SLT Properties LLC from Article 3.1.6 E and 7.28A of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 12-22-427-003, identified as 10201 Joanna K. Avenue, in order to construct a second-story addition that would encroach 8.92 feet into the required front yard setback, 5 feet into the required side yard setback from both the east and west property lines, and exceed the allowed value of the improvements for a non-conforming structure by 254%, a 55.10 foot variance from the required lot width, and 7,034.16 square foot variance from the required lot size are also granted from Article 3.1.6.E. This approval will have the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department.
Thank you, Cliff. And do we have a support on that?
I will support.
Thank you, Debbie. And with that, we have a motion from Mr. Siebert, support from Mr. Hart to approve this. May we have a roll call, please, Hannah?
Seaver,
Yes.
DeHart,
Yes, I believe that the structural engineer report will actually enhance the structure that's there now with the addition.
Shellac,
Yes, since safety matters to us, and we're also trying to make sure that we keep these within reasonable bounds, I am voting yes.
Spencer,
Yes, this is a non-conforming parcel of property. The proponent has redesigned the top area so that it does not encroach, the roofing does not encroach into the setbacks. The structural engineering letter definitely has shed some additional light on the structure of the proposed addition, and they are not expanding the non-conforming footprint. And so with that, I definitely am voting in favor of it. So you have your variance, you have 6 months in which to pull a permit, or you'll have to return before us again. Please give staff a 3 or 4 days to get a rough draft copy of the minutes. You'll need them before you go back to our building department. And good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. With that, our next case, the applicant is MJ Whalen Construction. The
And we
location,
have to, Madam Chairwoman, we have to welcome back somebody, I believe.
oh, we do. Brian, can you let Mike back in our meeting, please?
Yep, I just let him back in.
Oh, thank you. Then I'll start all over again. Thank you. Oh, you guys
Are
are
you
just
there?
so nice.
And
Okay,
other than that, I see no other reason that Mike should be the governor, but we're never going to tell him those reasons, right? Because we
That's-
just got those off our chest, right?
yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Just kidding, Mike. Hey, welcome back, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mike, as I was saying, next case is MJ Whaling Construction. The location is 10199 Lakeside Drive, also identified as 1227477011. The applicant requests to construct an addition to a single-family house requiring variances from Article 3.1.6.e R1D, single-family residential, front yard setback, side yard setback, minimum lot area, and minimum lot width. A variance from Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures, will be required due to both the value of improvements and the increase in cubic content. This case was tabled on October 22nd, and with that, may we have a motion and a support to remove from the table?
Motion.
Thank you, Nick. And do we have a support?
Support.
Cliff, thank you. So Nick has moved to remove it from the table and supported by Cliff. May we have a roll call, please, Hannah?
Shellac,
Present? Yes, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, to remove it.
Seaver,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Yes. And with that, may we have staff report, please? Oh, wait, before you do that, 31 owners within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, and none returned by United States Mail. And with that, then, Justin, can we have your report, please?
On the screen is a survey of the property. This is addressed as 10199 Lakeside Drive. It's located on Oxbow Lake and zoned R1D. As the chair said, this was tabled at the October 22nd Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Just a refresher on the request, the applicant's proposing to construct an addition on the first floor and as well as the second floor of the house. The current house is non-conforming to setbacks. It's located 4.1 feet from the east side lot line and 4.2 feet from the west side lot line. And then it's also 6.7 feet from the front lot line. Again, in R1D, the minimum side yard setback is 10 feet and the minimum front yard setback is 30 feet. This parcel is also non-conforming to lot size. So 2,286.12 square feet deficient when 12,000 square feet is required. And then with 80 feet in lot width required at the street line, this parcel is 21.93 feet deficient with 58.07 feet in width. So the plans, let me get them on the screen here. So as I mentioned, there's a first floor addition that's over here where my cursor is, if you can see it, on the east side of the house. And that's 48 square feet in size. It's 9.5 feet from the side lot line. So that portion of the addition is encroaching 1/2 foot into the side yard setback. There's also a second floor addition on that portion of the house. So what you see on the screen now is the second floor plan. The addition on The second floor at this point over the garage is 9.5 feet from the front lot line. I think that was a question that came up at the last meeting, how far the second floor was from the front lot line. That's 9.5 feet. This wall of the structure and then the roof overhang on the east side, the plans show meeting a 5-foot side yard setback. So they're requesting a 5-foot variance for that. On the west side, and then let me actually go to a different page. So on the west side of the structure, and this came up last time, the wall of the structure is of the second floor addition is 5 feet. The roof overhang does encroach beyond that, and Article 5, Section 3 of the zoning ordinance does prohibit roofs, gutters, windows, and open balconies from projecting closer than 5 feet to a side lot line. And then again, the Zoning Board of Appeals doesn't have authority to grant a variance at less than 5 feet on the side, and that's Article 7, Section 27, subsection 7. So again, we had asked for clarification on that, a revision to the plans, and that's not what is shown on this version. The front portion of the house, I think this also came up at the last meeting, the extent of improvements over the entryway. In your packet, so here's what's being proposed now for the front elevation. And sorry, it takes a while to scroll through these. The plans scroll slowly on the computer. This is the current front elevation of the house. So I did include some pictures. That's the current front of the house. So compared to the elevations, this entire house is really essentially being rebuilt, and based on the improvements to the non-conforming portion of the house, that does encroach closer than 9.5 feet towards the front lot line. Again, that 9.5 feet is the second story addition. A variance of 23.3 feet is going to be required to cover the existing 6.7 foot front yard setback, because there are improvements that are taking place to the non-conforming portion of the house there. And again, another reason this was tabled last time was the value of improvements to a non-conforming structure. Again, Article 7, Section 28 of the zoning ordinance limits it to 50% of the state equalized value in any 12 months. So the SEV of this building is $105,340. So the maximum extent of improvements in 12 months would be $52,670. The applicant did value the proposed work at $90,000. So based on that number, the variance for the value would be 170.86%. Based on the plans and the scope of the project, staff believes the value of work is underestimated and would likely exceed $90,000. So the requested variance is likely inaccurate. Just for a reference point, the 2020 building valuation data published by the International Code Council estimates cost of construction at $122.46 per square foot for living areas. And then when you're including the alteration and renovation of the majority of the existing house with the addition, an estimate for the value of improvement could range from $120,000 to $140,000. So that's what is being presented tonight. The applicant is present, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Justin. So I have a question for Mr. Spencer. If the 122.46 square foot for living area is as the estimated cost of construction, and then you referenced, Justin, from it could possibly be from 120 to 140. I was quoted when I was gonna have some work done at a little more than the 140, like more about 145. Are you, Mr. Spencer, are you comfortable with those 122.46 and the 120 to 140? Based on what I'm saying to you, that I went to a contractor because I was going to have some work done on my house, and he said it would be about, 146 to 147 per square foot. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that.
Sure. So these are numbers that are produced by the International Code Council, and it's what we have to really base our estimates on. Every contractor is different. There's some contractors that are going to come in a low ball. There's some contractors that are going to be much higher. So we just have to go by what is published.
Okay, so you are comfortable with their figures is what I was just questioning. Thank you.
Yes.
And then I had no other questions myself. So does any member from the board have questions of staff, please?
This is Mike.
Mike?
All right. And I didn't know if Justin and or Nick had a question on that front yard setback. If you recall last time, we did make comments on the amount of work being done over the front entryway. So there was a great deal of work being brought out much closer to the road than what the existing house is. But then for the living portion of the house, the question came up as to whether or not the setback, if they were not doing anything at all to the front porch area, is the setback to the addition the same as the front of the garage to the right of way, or is the addition being pulled back from the front of the garage a certain distance?
Yeah, so the front of the garage is 6.7 feet from the front lot line. And then the addition would be farther back. That would be 9.5 feet from
Okay.
the front lot line.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Expounding on Mike's question, because that was a question I had. We're 9.6 feet from the front lot line on the addition on the front portion of the house, but what is it currently at the front entrance of the house? It's farther back now?
The front entrance is farther back than 6.7 feet, which is the front of the garage. It's the front entrance is recessed back in. I don't have that measurement in front of me, but based on the work that's happening to the existing first floor of the house, they're improving the nonconformity. So the variance should be from the existing setback at 6.7 feet.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the other question is, you said they're still over the 5 feet on the overhang?
Correct. The roof overhang is within 5 feet of the side lot line.
And we can't do anything about that?
Correct.
Thank you.
There's no other questions for staff, then.
Well, so if we can't do anything about that, how do we vote on it?
Well,
If it's within 5 feet?
I think the board asked for a change last time and the change wasn't made. So the board can do what it wants with that information.
I just feel like it was not a I don't feel like it was an unclear conversation.
I've had several
About-
I have had several conversations with the applicant. I believe the building official has too, about what was being requested by the board for these plans. I think there were a handful of revisions. So
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts have zero to do with enhancement to the neighborhood, which, you know, everybody knows based on my votes is a big issue. It has nothing to do with, you know, trying to work within lots that used to be, up north. We had a very extensive conversation about getting outside of that little footage area. And I mean, very long one. I don't know what to do about that. I just feel like there was not a lack of clarity on that. That's just me. The building, it looks great. It looks beautiful. It really does. But that thing that really matters seems to be something we were not unclear about.
Well, and adding to that, Nick, one of the reasons that this board is not permitted or actually prohibited from granting a variance of less than 5 feet from a side lot line is for safety reasons, and health, safety, and welfare are one of the major things that we're charged to make sure are done properly.
Absolutely. I mean, we are trying to improve neighborhoods. You're right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, madam.
No,
Just
that's
go ahead.
fine.
Sorry.
Just for the record, I will not grant anything if I have a safety concern, and this is a definite safety concern. It's right there in the ordinance. It says very clearly, it's less than, you can't do it if it's less than 5 feet from the safety, because of the safety reasons. And quite frankly, I don't think that I'm going to have my mind changed, because I'm not going to put potential resident or residents in any danger whatsoever. I mean,
Madam Chair, I agree with you. I mean, my heart is, I love what they're doing. I love the work they're doing. I cannot in any way do something that firefighters would be horrified by. I mean, just to put it that way.
well, and that,
Even if it's 5 inches, I have to be careful about that. I'm sorry, I see Mr. Collins has his hand up, so sorry
Okay.
about that. I
Go
cut
ahead,
in
Mike.
front of.
Oh, not a problem. I just want to make sure that I'm reading the plans properly. And it's the way I'm reading the plans, the existing home is 4.5 feet off the property line. And I see anyway that the addition being proposed, so the existing home does not meet our minimum standards without a doubt. At least I think I'm reading the plans that the proposed addition, if you remove the eave overhangs on the west side of the home there, I was thinking that the addition itself was 5 feet from the property line, so they were not doing any new construction within that 5 foot distance. And so I wondered whether or not Mr. Spencer might have an input on that. Are they actually proposing to do any work within 5 feet of that property line?
Sure. So the way that we saw this, and I think we need to have Mr. Whalen speak as well at some point. The way that we saw this is that the overhang itself was still within that 5 feet, not the wall, but the overhang. So that's what we have tried to make clear to him, that no portion, overhang, gutters, no portion can be closer than 5 feet to the property line.
Okay, and I can see that absolutely. So what we don't know is whether he can remove any proposed overhang, eaves, anything that would project into that 5 foot distance. Okay.
Yes, and that's why we would like to, again, I'd like to have him speak about it, and perhaps he can give some more clarity to it.
does that answer for now, Mike?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. With that, then, if we have no other questions of staff, if the proponent would like to give give us his thoughts on it and answer any questions that we may have, we welcome you to our meeting, sir.
Thank you. I don't know if you, oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I wasn't sure if the video was going to work, and I apologize, Madam Chairwoman and board, that you don't have my video is just not working. So, Justin, if you would go back to sheet 5, and you had it up there for a second, I can explain this 5 foot, because I am 100% in agreement with the board that we are not going to build within 5 feet. So if you look at that, you actually have the overhang that is in question by the board is existing. We are not building it. It is there right now. So that 5'4", we actually pulled the second story back into the home, the 9 inches to get away from the 5 foot. So there is no part of our addition from our interpretation and what we drew to hang into that 5 foot setback. The part that is hanging into the 5 foot setback exists today. We drew it because it's there, and it was also, Justin, in your pictures. You show it, and you had pulled up some pictures of the home, and that the overhang that's drawn there is there right now. We are not building it. We're not building it within that. If it is the request of the board for us for approval to remove it, but we're not proposing to build it. We're just saying it's there. It's already just like it is. Our new addition pulls back within the 5 foot that you would like. And we can pull it back another foot if you would like. But just to clarify that, does that seem clear at all to anybody?
If I can ask Mr. Wayland, keep that same picture up if you would, Justin. So, and maybe Justin, you can take your cursor, because it is very confusing the way it is drawn. So from the property line, you actually have a vertical line that says line of property at the southwest corner.
Yeah.
Then there's a jog of 4 foot 5 inches to the right there. And it's clear that the existing structure is within that setback area there. And I don't think we're talking about that. But then if we
so
go
ahead and blow that up, Justin, so it's a little more clear, because it's actually 4 foot 5 plus 9 to ours.
Well, yeah, it shows, and I haven't gone that far yet. So the additional 9 feet, 9 inches goes over to the edge of the new addition.
Correct.
Now, if you follow that line vertically up, it appears to me that it jogs back out into that 5 foot area there at the roof line, right in that area there.
I see what you're saying.
It's not clear. That line should be going vertically up. You've got a dashed line there, but it shows the roof overextending that into that area.
Sure. Can I propose we table this, because I'm going to redraw that? We have no desire whatsoever to be in that 5 foot overhang. We just don't. There's just no reason for it, and it's certainly, if it's going to blow this thing up, I'm not asking anybody to stretch anything that they want.
Yeah, and I think the chairperson, I think the chairwoman, and none of us want that, and we can't allow that. And
I'm with you. I'm not trying to shove down anybody's throat. The other question about the value, the homeowner is a tradesman, and I think what I'm going to do is talk to him about the value, because my contract with him is to provide everything to get us through, but he's doing a fair amount of work himself. So honestly, the value is somewhat suppressed because of that. On the permit. But I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable.
What's beyond uncomfortable? It's just what we can legally do.
Yeah,
I mean,
I get
we
that.
appreciate, and really, this is a beautiful drawing. I want to be clear about that. I personally, the board, but I really like what you're trying to do. I just want to be able to vote for something that I can legally vote for.
You know, can I just
Yeah,
say,
I think
I
everybody else
apologize.
Has that
because
feeling too. Yeah.
This, we went in detail about fixing this, and I'm afraid my office may have just sent the wrong print. And I'm so
Sure.
sorry. I'm very
No,
sorry.
it's okay.
Yeah, I tend to agree because this was very similar to the original print that we'd received.
Yeah, and so I'm embarrassed, to be honest, so.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you for your candor, though.
With that, then the proponent has requested,
I'll make a motion to table it until the next meeting.
thank you, Nick.
Wait, should I say the next meeting or the January meeting? Joe, Madam Chairwoman.
It has to be January. We already sent out the
Okay.
notices for next week.
Thank you.
I make a motion to table it to, sorry, chair it, you're the chair, to
No, you-
table it to the, to table it to the January meeting.
And do we have a support?
I will support.
Thank you, Debbie. So just so that everybody knows, we have a motion by Nick, a support by Debbie to table this case to the January meeting. Could we have a roll call, please, Hannah?
Yep, Shellac,
I, for the reasons I did state, which are that, it seems that there are things that need to be clarified still.
DeHart,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes, the proponent, in good faith, has acted as much as he has, and requesting this to be tabled so that he can clarify everything for us. We'll make this a very smooth transition to making a decision at our January meeting. So with that, Matt, we'll see you in January.
Thank you. Have a happy holiday, everybody. Thank you very
The
much.
same,
Thank you.
the same for you. Thank you. Our next request is from Dale Schneider. The request is for the location of 8018 Mountain View, also identified as 1225-276-010. The applicant requests to construct a duplex requiring variances from Article 3.1.8.e RM1 attached single-family residential front yard setback, rear yard setback, maximum lot coverage, and minimum lot width. For the record, 127 owners, occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance. No letters received in favor of the request. 3 letters received in opposition of the proposed variance request, and 1 letter was returned non-deliverable by United States Mail. And may we have staff report, please?
Sure. On the screen is a site plan provided by the applicant. This property at 8018 Mountain View is located west of Williams Lake Road, north of Wildwood Lane of the Bluffs of Williams Lake Crossings, and is zoned RM1 attached single family. It's approximately 2.08 acre in size. The existing property utilizes a private well for water and a private septic system for sanitation. The applicant is proposing to construct a duplex on the southern portion of the parcel. I'm trying to figure out where I want to start with this. So Mountain View is a private road and it runs through the parcel, and the portions of property north and south of the road are considered separate parcels for setbacks. So the southern portion of the property is approximately 0.4 acre in size. It is considered a corner lot with frontage on Williams Lake Road. The proposal is a duplex, as I said, with a garage between the two structures. The westerly unit is 30 feet by 64 feet in size. That's 1,920 square feet. The easterly unit is 26 feet by 40 feet in size. That's 1,040 square feet. And a 22 foot by 36 foot, that's 792 square feet. 3-car garage would be located between the two units. So with the lot, the minimum lot width is 100 feet in RM1 zoning. And as this property is going to be considered a separate parcel, the portion of frontage is deficient on Williams Lake Road for width. It's 65 feet. So a 35-foot variance is being requested for lot width. And then the setbacks in RM1 are 40 feet for front and rear yard setbacks. So at the northeast portion of the addition, the setback is 21.62 feet from the Mountain View right away. So a 18.38 foot variance is being requested for the front setback. The other front yard setback is being met from Williams Lake Road. The rear yard setback is 40 feet as proposed. It's 25, so a 15-foot variance is being requested there. There were not building elevations and floor plans provided. The applicant did submit pamphlets that showed that these were modular structures that would be connected over a basement foundation on the site. If the Zoning Board of Appeals decides to approve the request, staff would recommend a condition to prohibit additional height over 1 story from being constructed in the future to help mitigate the impact on the adjoining properties to the south of the duplex from encroaching into the rear yard setback. And then another thing that should be considered by the board if approval is your pleasure tonight is the screening requirement along the south property line. That should be established as a condition. The zoning ordinance does offer options to provide the appropriate amount of screening between properties based on the zoning of the adjacent parcel. So the staff report I provided did outline those screening options that are in the zoning ordinance. So there's landform buffers, buffer strips and obscuring fences and a screen wall. And we can get into a farther conversation with that. If you decide to go that route, the applicant is present tonight and I'd be glad to answer questions.
Thank you, Justin. Does anybody have any questions for staff?
I do. Justin, you said we're considering this as a separate parcel, but when I looked at the survey, it appears that it is one parcel. And does it have 2 separate parcel identification numbers?
It does not.
So in the RM1 district, how many structures are allowed to be built on that one parcel?
There isn't a number. It's the density is what is established in the zoning district. So there could be, there could be 50 buildings on a parcel if the density requirement was met. It's not a single family,
And the density,
detached single family district.
okay, so the density, are you utilizing a community septic then?
So the applicant would have to connect to the public sanitary sewer system if they were to construct this duplex.
For all of the units in there or just this one?
Just for the proposed duplex units, the 2 units would have to connect.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Yeah,
I
I have
have-
a question for Justin. Does the road that the private road that runs through it is just on an easement? I mean, it's not dedicated. I mean, it's not part of a condominium or anything. It's just an easement that serves to the west.
Yes, sir.
Does this site plan go to planning commission or they just get their variances and proceed?
It would be administrative approval from staff. So the applicant submitted for administrative site plan review and we we deferred action to the zoning board of appeals. So it would not go to the planning commission. If the ZBA decided to grant the variances, then it would come back to staff for the full review and approval of the actual construction.
I see. If I see the parcel to the south is also zoned the same, it's also RM1.
Correct.
If parcels are identical zoning, is any screening required between them by the ordinance?
Some of the issues that we're having, well, not an issue, but the property to the south is detached single family, even though it's zoned RM1 because of a consent judgment. So the land use is considered single family detached. So our thought is the screening requirement should be based on the land use of single family detached, even though the zoning is RM1.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mike?
Yes, thank you. And Justin, if this site were coming in before the planning department right now for approval, how would the planning department evaluate the density being proposed on this parcel?
So we have to look at the overall size of the property and the number of units in the existing buildings and the number of units proposed, and there's a certain square footage required per unit. So there's a calculation that there's actually a formula in the zoning ordinance, and I don't have it in front of me, but I can get it if you want it. There's a formula that we ran the calculation. So the duplex units were under the density requirement for the entire parcel.
Okay, when you did that, did you take into account the ordinance that it actually requires the removal of the easement area for the roadway from that density calculation?
Yeah, so we, like I said, I don't have it in front of me when we did it. I'd have to double check.
Okay. The other question I had was the zoning ordinance requires that all private streets, private roads be placed on a minimum of a 60-foot right-of-way instead of a 30-foot easement.
Correct.
If that were required here, obviously it would remove even more property from the proposed density, and the variance requests would be substantially different than what's being proposed. And I didn't know how the staff looked at that.
Yeah, like I said, when we initially ran the calculation, we thought it met it. When the applicant first came in, though, they were proposing to split this off. And then they decided they didn't want to do that for personal reasons. I think a way to maybe keep it cleaner would be to split the property so the ZBA could have the property be split as a condition of approval if it wanted to, and then that would solve the issue of the density for the overall parcel.
Except would that split be at how can you split a piece of property that doesn't meet any of the requirements for area and width?
So it would meet the requirements for area, but it would not meet the requirements for width. So it would need a variance to split the width for the lot width.
So, okay. And then also, if a sanitary sewer were going to be extended up to this property, it would make sense to provide for a means of the sanitary being extended further to the west, all the way up the street to serve the entire property, all the homes to the west of here. The right-of-way easement for the roadway doesn't appear to accommodate an extension of the sanitary sewer to the west. So we'd be essentially locking out or preventing that sanitary from being extended to further to the west. That's just kind of a point of interest. And then also, if this is allowed, I would fully expect that all the property owners to the west with the exact same condition would be looking to do the same thing, allowing for homes to be put on this 30-foot easement, but they would need a sanitary sewer because their property wouldn't be big enough for a septic field. So we would definitely be setting a precedence here if we allow this to continue. just kind of a statement up front. Thank you.
I agree with you on that, Mike. Thank you. And I have a question for our building official. My understanding is this is not going to be a hard construction, Nick. It's going to be a modular. And if memory serves me from my past experiences with another municipality, our building officials are somewhat limited in overseeing the construction and getting in and making certain that everything is structurally built to the way that the codes for hard construction are. Am I correct on that? Is that still part? I mean, it's all a modular, my understanding used to be.
Yeah, modular homes, manufactured homes are all inspected at the state level. So they're inspected during or after construction at the site of construction. So the only inspections we would do would obviously be the foundation, the garage, if that is a stick-built portion, and a final build, and obviously site inspections. But the construction of it, yes, I do not have any that would not be inspected by myself or my staff.
Oh, okay. I was hoping I remembered incorrectly, but apparently the old mind still works the same. Does anybody else have any questions of staff before I open it for the applicant? If not, Mr. Snyder.
I guess I just want to say I'm, on hearing all these things, I went from a place of slightly comfortable to slightly uncomfortable. This is something that's going to affect locally our community. It's going to affect the way we make decisions going forward. And I think that's just, even if we say yes, that's fine. If we say no, that's fine. But we have to keep in mind that what we're voting on is actually a decision about a little bit more than just a personal, just a piece of property. Like, this actually feels like it's a bit of a trajectory call. So that's all.
Thank you, Nick. Then with that, if no one else has comments, Mr. Snyder, if you'd like to give us any comments that you might have, any additional insight you'd like to give us, we'd appreciate it, sir.
Yes, I sure would. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you taking up my request. What I'm hearing, it obviously is not what I want to hear so far. First, I'd like to approach or touch a few of the topics that you brought up. Number one, about the sewer. The sewer is already on the property. It's on the corner of my property that I own there. Now, the property that I own, I've owned it since 1986. And I had no control when we put in that private road there where it was going to be. So I built, as you can look at the thing there, the property survey, I have a 4-unit townhouse on there now with a modular that I put on in 2004 that I live in now. And as you should know, I would have thought you would know, that these modulars are all passed by the state of Michigan with the codes, because you did it back in 2004 when I brought one in at that time. They are built with a higher quality than stick-built homes are to begin with. But I'm not going to get into the semantics of that with you, which, if you have your minds made up, what I'm trying to do is just build a new home for myself and my wife and my sister. I am limited in what I can do with the property. And it seems like you're limiting me, the board is, property that I own, what I can do with. If you're saying that because of the road going through and the easement rights that I might have to get, you're not going to give me, which if you would or would not, I'm waiting to hear what's going to happen. But if you don't, it seems that I'm going to be limited in what I can do with property that I own. And it's big enough to do something with. So if you don't approve this, what would you say I could put on there? The size of it from Mountain View over to where the other homes are that are MR1, multiple, but yet they had approval to put single residential homes in there, which I never objected to when they did it, because I never even heard about it when the developer did it. But the point, what I'm trying to get across is, what am I going to do with this property? I've already cleared it and I want to build something on it. So if the footprint that you're saying that because of the easement rights, if the footprint is too big, let me know. What size footprint could I put on it? The property is 288 feet from east to west, and from north to south, it's 100 at the small end, and it goes up a little bit on the other end. What size footprint can go into that property that would not require an easement? I would need to know something like that.
Okay. One of the things that this board is not charged to do is to design the site for you.
I'm not asking you to design
No,
the site.
no, I understand that. The ordinance is specific, staff can guide you. But in the end, we have to look at what directly is going to go with our ordinances to whether or not we can grant what you're requesting or not. It's a very tough decision to make when we sit here and do that. We have to consider everything. And, other than asking you to sit down and talk with staff to see if staff can help you more, honestly, at this point, I really don't know, sir.
Okay, I'm under the impression that this is going to be a knockdown. You're not going to approve. Let me ask you this. On that piece of property, if I were to have a footprint on that of say 15 foot in the center instead of the 30 foot, where I should not have to ask for a variance then, and something that is 15 foot by 160 foot long, which would be, I own the property across the street right on there. I have 5 apartments. Could I not build 10 garages on there so each of them would have a double car garage to park their cars? That would be a 15 foot in depth and 160 foot long. I could then put, I believe I can, I own the property. Could I not put a garage on there, a 15 foot by 160 foot long?
So if that's a proposal, I just recommend running it through our planning department.
Right, we're not qualified to answer those questions, sir. That's what staff is for.
All right, well, that's fine. I'm down in Florida. Then what I would like to do is hear what happens now, and I'll fly up tomorrow and do a new proposal. And would this get to the January meeting then? How does this work that way?
I would open the public hearing, Madam Chair. This isn't a back and forth discussion.
With that, I will. Brian, is there anybody from the audience that wishes to speak on this that you know of? Can you ask?
Yes, we have one person with their hand raised. Oh, 2 with their hand raised. So we'll go with 0371 first. Press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Ostrachimsky. I live at 8014 Wildwood Lane in White Lake. My back property meets with the rear property of Mr. Schneider on the proposed build site. And we don't mind him building something decent, but we are concerned about him being too close to our property line. 25 feet is a big difference compared to 40 feet of what is required. We went through variances when we built our house and we followed them from the city, our builder did. And so we're just concerned about what he's requesting. We have, we're concerned about privacy. We're concerned about our property value. We feel that our house value would be lessened than comparison to other houses on our street if a duplex is built that close to our property line. And also, we're concerned, about privacy. We look out and we see this house right by our property line. We're just concerned. It's just too close. And also, we have a drainage problem already in our yard. We have all of our runoff on all of the houses to the west of us. We have sprinkler runoff, we have rainwater runoff. We constantly have standing water in our yard. We've come to the city about this before, about the builder, the house next door, it's a different builder. And the builder didn't do anything about it, so we still have that constant runoff. So with the new property coming that's already going to be sitting higher than us, we're concerned about more runoff, which makes our yards will be unusable and our property could be damaged. And that's money out of our pocket that we would have to pay for to fix our damages. So, we know that Mr. Schneider has the right to build on his property and that we want him to utilize it responsibly within the correct zoning ordinances. But if you feel, you do approve this, then we were asking for alternatives. That we're asking for the rear yard setback variance from we're asking that the rear yard setback variance to be 10 feet. So that's resulting for the 30-foot rear setback instead of the 25 that he suggested, or that he's requested, I'm sorry. And then the screening options, we would like that the city is implemented. We're requesting that the buffer strip and the obscuring fence to be required by the staff planner, because we feel that the landform buffer option with the berm with the trees is likely more drainage issues and water retention in the properties. And plus, Mr. Schneider would not just have the space on his property for that. And also with the brick concrete wall screen option, we feel that the appearance would bring down the value of our property, just looking too commercial and, not homey looking. In addition, we do agree with the proposed single-story limit that's prohibited on the additional height on his duplex. But overall, we're not happy. We're concerned about the variances. We're concerned about our privacy. We're concerned about our property values. But we feel it's too close, but that's all I can say.
Thank you. And Alyssa, you said your address was 8014 Wildwood Lane. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of the three.
Okay. And you did send in a letter dated December 7th, 2020, which is a part of will remain a part of the file and part of this board's determination. Board members, in looking over what Alyssa has written on this 2-page letter, basically she has covered everything that's in this letter. Board members and Justin, it's up to you. Do you wish me to read this letter into the record or just acknowledge that it is a part of the record as she has spoken in person?
If that's fine with Alyssa, then I think that we should accept that.
Okay, Alyssa, how do you feel about that? Do you want me to read your letter? It's up to you.
Sure.
Okay. The letter is dated December 7th, 2020. It's addressed to the White Lake Township Dear Zoning Board of Appeals Committee members. We reside at 8014 Wildwood Lane, White Lake, Michigan. Our rear property line borders the property of 8018 Mountain View, which is being reviewed at the December 10th, 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Agenda item 6C. Our concerns are the number of variances Mr. Schneider is requesting for his new proposed build on the property. The rear setback variance he is requesting at this time is 15 feet. This makes Mr. Schneider's proposed build only 25 feet from our rear back property line. We feel that is too close. This will affect our privacy and, more importantly, our property value. The construction of Mr. Schneider's proposed build is a duplex. We feel that our single-family home property value would certainly lessen in comparison to other similar homes along Wildwood Lane in our subdivision. When it is time, we should be able to sell our home at the value it is worth without a duplex so close to our property line affecting it. Also, the proposal of his new build in constructing a manufactured single-family home. But in the letter that was sent by the township with the December 10th meeting agenda stated, Mr. Snyder is requesting to construct a duplex. We live in a single-family home. A duplex is a multi-family home. Mr. Snyder is building 2 different living spaces separated with a 3-car garage. Do the manufactured components of his proposed building comply with the quality of surrounding on-site built single-family homes? Another concern we have is the drainage from the new proposed build. Currently, our property has a drainage issue from our own neighborhood from about 6 houses to west of our property. We have constant runoff from the sprinkler systems and weather. We have an abundance amount of standing water in our yard at all time. When they built the house east of us, we started having the retention of water. We contacted the township about this problem, but it was never resolved by the builder of the property. Therefore, we are struggling with drainage along with the neighbor that sits east of us. With Mr. Snyder's proposed build, his property would sit much higher than us, and our properties would be unstable, and our home can be damaged because of the standing water. We understand that Mr. Snyder owns the property and should utilize it reasonably within the correct zoning ordinances. Thank you for looking at our concerns of the drainage issue and home values. We feel our concerns, we can come up with alternatives. We are asking that the rear yard setback variance be 10 feet, resulting in a 30-foot rear yard setback instead of the 25-foot setback Mr. Snyder is requesting. Regarding the screening options that Mr. Snyder would have to implement, we're requesting that the buffer strip and obscuring fence be required as proposed by the staff planner. We feel the land form buffer option, the berm with trees, would likely cause even more drainage issues and water retention in our property, and that of our neighbors, I'm sorry. Plus, Mr. Snyder does not have the space on his property. Also, the screen wall option with the 6-foot brick or concrete wall, we feel the appearance of that would bring down the value of our property even more with it looking too commercial. In addition, we do agree with the proposed single-story limits that prohibit addition height over the 1-story from being constructed now and in the future. And it's signed by both Sebastian and Alyssa. Spelling of the last name is, thank you, Oswiecimski. That's for Hannah. So with that, thank you, Alyssa. Is there another person, Brian, in the audience that wishes to speak?
Yes, we will call on 0433. If you can press *6, that will unmute you.
Oh, hi there. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak. My name is Jessica Montgomery, and I reside at 8008 Wildwood Lane. My house is on the rear side of Mr. Schneider's proposed setback at 8034 Mountain View. Michigan law dictates that the public has a legitimate interest in maintaining the important health, safety, and welfare aspects of their neighborhood and in having their values protected, their property values. I come in with opposition of Mr. Snyder's rear setback variance for 2 reasons. First is our concern of safety that will affect my household safety and that of my neighbors to the west. And the second is that we have a right to a reasonable return on investment with regard to our property value, and we believe that Mr. Schneider's proposed variance will negatively impact my property value as well as the 2 neighboring houses to the west of us, especially when compared to the rest of the properties within my subdivision. So, my first concern of safety is with regard to my children in my backyard. Mr. Schneider's setback variance would bring his proposed duplex within a variance of over 18 feet closer to my property line instead of 40. It's essential to know that my yard currently receives the drainage from 4 to 5 houses to the west of us. Mr. Schneider's requested setback variance would put his runoff into my yard and additionally cause flooding in my neighbor's yard, Alyssa, who had just spoken. We both have small children who play in our backyards. We utilize our backyards recreationally year-round, and the runoff from Mr. Schneider's construction and eventual structure, if the variance goes through, would make my backyard useless for days on end following any precipitation. Safety is a legitimate concern for my family that we will face if this appeal goes through. The second is that it should be noted that I purchased my home, like everyone else in my neighborhood, with a reasonable expectation of a return on investment. My neighbors within my subdivision that have faced new construction of condos or homes nearby, they have all followed zoning ordinances. All new developments followed ordinances. Mr. Schneider should too. We believe that making the zoning exception for Mr. Schneider would negatively impact my home value as well as my 2 neighbors to the west. We're a young family. This is our first home that we've purchased for our children to live in with us. And I just urge you to help us keep our due property value, especially in comparison to that of our neighbors within the rest of our subdivision, so that we can continue to grow and thrive within the township. And I would just like to finish with saying, Madam Chairman, is that we don't wish to deter Mr. Schneider from his due rights as a property owner. We understand that your decision must be weighed and it must be fair. Should the variance request be passed, we ask that you look at our letters again, as my neighbors and I have suggested slight differentiation on the setback that would alleviate some of our concerns of safety, and that you adhere to our requested screening option per our letters, which Alyssa had spoken on earlier, and that would be the fencing option, which I think might be option 2, but I'm not positive. In any case, thank you for listening to me, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jessica. And as I offered for Alyssa, you also have a letter dated December 7th, 2020. It is your decision. Would you like me to read this into the record? It will become a part of the record, whether it is read in or not this evening. It's strictly your call.
I would appreciate it, Madam Chair, if you would read that, please.
Thank you. Then the letter is dated December 7th. It is addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals Committee members. We are the residents of 8008 Wildwood Lane, White Lake, Michigan. The back of our property line borders that of 8018 Mountain View that is to be reviewed during the December 10th, 2020 agenda, item 6C. We purchased this home and property for our family in 2019 based on several reasons: the property value of the other homes in the subdivision, the lack of structure behind our home, and the privacy that the empty rear property line afforded us. It is our understanding that Mr. Schneider needs to provide a practical difficulty to obtain a variance with regard to the setback that is on the agenda. We feel that complying with current setbacks do not unreasonably prevent the owner from using his property as he would intend in a way that does not interfere with our property value and concerns of privacy with our small children that we raise in our backyards. Furthermore, we do not believe that a variance would do substantial justice for those of us affected on Wildwood Lane for these reasons. Most distressing to my property and that of my next door neighbor is that Mr. Snyder's utilization of his property as he intends, and especially with the requested variance regarding his rear yard setback, is that it will cause a great drainage issues in our backyard. As it stands, our yards take the brunt of drainage from our side of the street, and we accepted that when we purchased our home. However, his setback variance would render my backyard almost useless for my children and that of my neighbors with every rainfall. The utilization of our backyard would be greatly diminished, and the expenses from my pocket to correct any damage issues would be unjust. As previously stated, we purchased our home because of the privacy that was afforded in our backyard. We have small children and would feel uncomfortable with the house behind us that requests variances in the setback. We painstakingly chose our home based on the township setbacks from other properties. We utilize our yard year-round and would not feel unjustified not like to feel unjustifiably uncomfortable. Our property value would certainly lessen compared to other homes in my subdivision, as many families, and this is a single family home, would not be willing to pay up to have a backyard neighbor that is so close to our home. Again, we are a young family and not as established as Mr. Snyder, but we should reasonably be able to sell our homes for the same market value as others in our subdivision, and that would not be the case should the motion approve. Changes in the setback would diminish the returns of our home and the improvements that we have made within our home, including our backyard decks. Thank you for looking into our concerns of drainage issues, privacy, and home values. We understand that Mr. Snyder should be afforded the ability to utilize his property as he sees fit, and we wish not to infringe on his rights as a property owner within the township. With all of that said, we urge you to look at our concerns and our alternatives. Regarding Mr. Snyder's site plan that was filed with the township, it would appear that he could reasonably adjust his requested front variance that aligns with Mountain View Drive, as the plan suggests that he would have a larger front yard than back. A smaller front yard is not an unreasonable request when assessing the burden that he places on these affected homes on Wildwood Lane. We would request that the rear variance be 10 feet, resulting in a 30-foot rear yard setback. Regarding the screening options that Mr. Snyder would have to implement, we would like to state that a berm such as described in screening option 1 is simply not doable based on the lack of space, as well as the drainage issues that would further cause my backyard and that of my neighbor. Screening option 2 is our preference, with a buffer strip and obscuring 6-foot fence. Out of these 3 options, this would be the cleanest looking and continue our reasonable expectation of having a typical looking residential type of backyard, whereas screening option 3 with a 6-foot brick or concrete wall would appear too commercial and further diminish the residential appearance that we sought out when we purchased our homes on Wildwood Lane. And it's signed by Jessica Montgomery and Brian Montgomery. And do we have anyone else in the audience, Brian, that wishes to speak on this?
Yes, we have 0093. If you'd like to press *6, you can unmute yourself and then say your name and address for the record.
And good evening. My name is Chris Jenish. I reside at 8022 Wildwood Lane.
All right, Chris, let us know what your thoughts are on this, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairperson. I don't want to repeat the things that were said by Alyssa and Jessica. I do agree with them on their concerns. Some of the main concerns I have is I feel that the structure there is too large for the property, and the variances being requested are excessive, especially facing our property. They want to, or Dale, should I say, wants a 15-foot variance in the rear and then a 35-foot variance facing Williams Lake Road. I just feel that the structure is going to be too big for that property. I also have the same concerns that my 2 neighbors do, that if it is passed, that I would like a fence put in place there instead of a wall or a land buffer. But for me, the bottom line is I feel it's too big of a structure to put on that piece of property.
Thank you, Chris. And as I gave your 2 neighbors, you also have a letter that is in the file, will remain part of the file. If you would like, I will be more than happy to read this into the record. Your choice on it, sir.
Sure, yeah, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Dated December 7th, 2020. Dear Zoning Board of Appeals Committee members, we reside at 8022 Wildwood Lane, White Lake, Michigan. Our rear property line borders the property of 8018 Mountain View, we discussed on December 10th, 2020, agenda item 6C. Our home was constructed in 2013. We selected this location within the neighborhood because there weren't homes built on the property bordering our backyard. We do understand that Mr. Snyder should have the ability to build on his property and should not unreasonably be prevented from doing so. However, the construction of a duplex adjacent to our property without a reasonable setback will affect our home resale value compared to other similar homes on Wildwood Lane. We feel that his requested variance for the rear yard setback is too large, bringing the structure too close to our property line. We would like the rear yard setback variance to be 10 feet, resulting in a 30-foot rear yard setback. We also request that the buffer strip and obscuring fence be required as proposed by the staff planner. The land form buffer options, berm with trees, would likely create a more drainage / water issues that are already present due to water runoff from the properties to the west. And it's signed Chris R. Jenis and Tracy L. McKellar Jenis. And Brian, do we have any other ones in the audience that wish to speak on this, please?
No other callers with their hands raised.
Thank you, Brian. With that, then I will close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
could I say something, please?
yes, you certainly may.
I appreciate it. You know, I listened to the three people that live behind me, and I agree with them on a lot of the things. They all said the same thing, that the backyard setback should be, say, 30. I have no problem at all bringing the front yard much smaller. Whatever you decide, whatever the board decides would be necessary would be fine with me. The other thing that I would even be willing to do, if the board is not acceptable to a modular home, I have no problem at all, or financial problems, building a stick-built home. I've got no problem at all doing that, if that's what it takes to get this done. And also, if you think that a duplex is too big, since the homes behind me are all single residential homes on multiple property, which is zone multiple, I will go ahead and build a single home back on that property. It does not have to be a multiple. If you want me, so I can get this going, I am more than happy to build a single home in the back on that property, because I own the property. I have to use it for something. So I'll accommodate in any way you want me to. Just tell me how you want me to do it.
Okay, thank you very much for that, sir. With that, staff, Nicholas, I see your hand is up. Go ahead, Nick.
My understanding about our purpose is that we're here to help citizens who are having a situation. You know, they have a piece of property. They're trying to work out something. They're trying to make a home work. They're trying to make an addition work. They're trying to help their families work. And to quote my friend, Mr. Powell, who's on the board here, we're asked to break the law. And we do it because we're trying to help fellow citizens make good decisions for their own families, because they're families that are part of White Lake. I appreciate this entire conversation. I really do. I think it's good for us to hear. But all of this, and yes, I realize that it sounds to some people maybe like we already had a bent on what we're going to vote. Personally, I did not, but I do now. And it just sounds to me like if we have some reason to use the property, let's be clear on what we're going to do. Our board is not here to navigate and figure out some little stuff. Like, we're here because a family, a person, an owner, yes, even Mr. Schneider, who has mentioned he's in Florida, anybody, they're here to ask us to make a decision to try to make something work. I don't believe we're here to actually be the people that figure out all the details. This now is sounding to me like a moment of, let's make anything happen. Personally, I'm ready to vote no. And I was not actually. I was not at the beginning of this conversation, but I am now. So that's where I am.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. Snyder, earlier you had mentioned the possibility of tabling this. We can't, you would have to discuss with staff what could be done and not done. That's not something that we are permitted to do. Justin, if Mr. Snyder communicated with staff and came up with something that could possibly be done with different variances, do you think it's possible that he'd be able to come onto our January meeting if he moved? I don't know what the time frame would be in a tabling of something.
I'm sorry. Can I, Joe, can I interrupt, please?
Sure.
We are here to help. I mean, we are here to help people who have homes or are trying to figure out how to make homes happen. They're trying to make little minute decisions to make things happen on these lots when we used to be, up north about 50 years ago. I love the heart of what you're asking. I just don't believe we and even the planning department are here to just figure out how to make anything work.
No,
I'm sorry. That's just where I'm at. I'm just,
no.
that's where I'm at. So thank you for hearing me, Joe. I apologize.
Yep, no. What I meant to ask, and perhaps I phrased it improperly, was.
You're
Madam
fine,
Chair,
Joe. Love you, Joe. Just
think
putting it out there. Yep.
I think I know where you're going, Madam Chair, and the option tonight should be to take action on the current request, whether it's no, the applicant would need to reapply and come back if it's a different proposal with a different variance.
Okay. Mike, go ahead.
And Joe, I'm sorry if I was too strong about that.
No, I'll get with you.
I love you.
And I'm going to piggyback on what Nick has really presented. And there's a little flaw in Mr. Snyder's and the neighbor's philosophy a little bit. Everyone that owns a piece of property does have the right to use it, but they only have the rights that the zoning ordinance gives them to use it. Mr. Snyder has a quadplex. He has 4 units on this piece of property. He is obviously using the piece of property. He's not being denied the use of his property, but he is not allowed by right to use every square inch of the piece of property that he has. So he's coming here to ask us to allow him to do something that the ordinance doesn't allow him to do, as Nicholas pointed out. My suggestion, I'm going to go right along with Nicholas here. It's not up to us to design something that can work. The ordinance dictates what does work and what he can do. I personally believe that there's a stormwater issue, and the stormwater issue is a separate issue than what it comes before us. And I would certainly hope that whatever is done, if anything is done on this piece of property, that the township engineer be involved, because stormwater cannot run off on neighbors, either to the west or to the south. I would certainly be in more of a favor of a single family home. However, I believe the same variances are going to be requested for, and he would end up with the same issue. There are 6 items that we are bound to make sure that we adhere to. And quite frankly, every one of those need to be met, not just 1 or 2 of them, but every one of them. And the one is it a self-imposed hardship? In this particular case, he's proposing something. He has the right to change it, but he himself is proposing it. It's not something that the zoning ordinance is preventing him, or it's not the shape of the property or anything else. He's already using his property. I would certainly be in more of a favor of a lesser front yard setback, but that would require a totally redesign and a re-advertising. So I would be voting no on every one of these variance requests tonight if when it comes time.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments before we move on, or do we have a motion that we'd like to entertain?
I'll take a motion.
Go ahead, Nick.
I move to deny the variances requested by Dale Schneider for parcel number 12-25-276-010, identified as 8018 Mountain View, due to the following reasons. I see zero self-imposed hardship. Period.
Thank you. Do I have a support on that, please?
I'll support that if Mr. Schlick changes.
Like the varnish, shellac, you know that.
Yes.
Come
He actually made a statement at the end that he sees no self-imposed hardship, but really the hardship is self-imposed, I believe is what he really meant.
That is what I meant. Thank you. That I see a self-imposed hardship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I stuttered. My apologies. Thank you for helping me.
So we have a motion by Mr. Schlack, a support by Mr. Powell to deny this request. Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Schlack,
Yes, because there is a self-imposed hardship.
Powell,
I vote yes for all the reasons stated in my summary.
DeHart,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Seaver,
Yes, because I believe it is a self-imposed hardship, and I believe it would damage the neighbors to the south who spoke tonight.
Spencer,
Yes, I also see that as a self-imposed hardship. With that, Mr. Snyder, your request has been denied. Our next case is on Kingston Road, Lot 83, English Villa subdivision. Wade Paris is the proponent. Property is identified also as 12-14-233007. The applicant requests to construct a single-family house requiring variances from Article 3.1.6.e R1D single-family residential, front yard setback, maximum lot coverage, minimum lot area, and minimum lot width. And had to make sure I had the right file here. For the record, 24 notices were sent to the owners and occupants of record. 1 letter received in favor, no letters received in opposition, no letters returned by United States mail. And may we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you said, this parcel is located on Kingston. It is zoned R1D, single family residential. On the monitor is a site plan of the property. It's currently an undeveloped parcel. The applicant's proposing to construct a single family home. The house that's being proposed is 2,668 square feet in size, including a 1-car attached garage. It's like I said, a 2-story house. The structure, if you can see where my cursor is located 16.8 feet from the front property line. In the R1D zoning district, the minimum front yard setback is 30 feet. So the applicant is requesting a 13.2 foot variance to encroach into that front yard setback. Additionally, the lot coverage being proposed is 26.22%. In R1D zoning, the maximum allowed is 20%. So 20% of this lot is 1,017.4 square feet in size. The coverage that's being proposed is 1,334 square feet. So that's 6.22% over the allowed coverage. That's 316.6 square feet. The applicant's also requesting variances to address the nonconformities of the parcel. So in R1D, 80 feet is required in width at the street line, and this parcel is 60 feet in width at the street line. So they're requesting a 20-foot variance for that. And then with 12,000 square feet required for lot size, this parcel is 5,887 square feet in size. So they're requesting a 6,913 square foot variance for the minimum lot size requirement. With that, the applicant is present tonight, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of staff?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
maybe Justin, if you can help me out here. I might look at this a little differently depending on whether or not this parcel was ever owned by the one of the two properties on either side of it. There's a kind of a unspoken, or there's an ordinance requirement in many other communities that say if that parcel was ever owned by the same entity that owned one of the parcels on either side, then it was split off after that, then the hardship is a hard sell because it's a self-created hardship. And so I'm just wondering whether or not your records go back far enough. I tried to go through Oakland County and I could not find out the ownership of this lot with respect to each of the homes on either side. So I'm wondering, do you happen to know that?
I don't know that. What I can say is that the parcel is in the configuration as it was when it was platted. So that's all I have. And I don't have any more history on that.
The reason I ask, of course, is pretty obvious that if it was owned by the same person, the homes on both sides have a minimum setback, and the minimum setback doesn't meet the zoning ordinance requirements. So if they had have owned it and then they separated it or split it away from their original primary resident, then they actually created this problem and, quite frankly, their own home as being non-conforming. So I went back a long way as well, and I totally concur. The original plat, the lot meets and does identify as the original plat. So we can't answer that, but I just thought I'd ask you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions of staff?
I first want to say that I appreciate the fact that this property was surveyed and the stakes were there. The questions that I had, and when I saw your diagram, Justin, it appears the neighbor's shed is right on the edge of the property. Is it encroaching at all onto this parcel?
To my understanding, it's not. It appears to be right on the lot line, so that is a non-conforming shed on the parcel to the north.
And then the well, the neighbor's well is right there also.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the well is on the other parcel, the neighbor's parcel.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So literally inch by inch, nothing of that goes over the line.
Based on this plan, it does not.
That I'm not a believer in luck, but
Yeah, and
I'm just saying.
I think, I have had some conversations with this owner to the north or to the west, and we talk quite frequently, or we have, about this case, and I should bring up his nonconformity with the shed, because that is in violation of the ordinance.
Definitely, we that's important. Yeah. I mean,
We have to be a little bit careful, everyone, because in walking the subdivision, there are a great number of nonconformities in this entire subdivision.
You're right.
So you can't just pick on a neighbor just because it's the neighbor.
Right, but when it comes to our attention, it's do we ignore it or do we address it? So, I mean, we don't go down the street driving around looking for nonconformities, but if we're made aware of one, then we might need to address it.
I
Understand.
just want to make sure there's no encroachment.
Yeah, it's under the size that would be required for a building permit, so it wouldn't have gone through our review at the township. So I imagine that it would be easily movable.
Hey, Justin, can you hear me?
Yeah, Wade, but before you jump
Okay,
in,
yeah, okay.
let's until the chair calls on you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? If not, then Wade, take it away.
Thank you, Lady Chair.
Yeah.
Just to address the shed, I know if you've gone out there, Justin, and talked to Eric, that shed isn't attached. It's on on 4x4s. So he slid that off past the property line after Keefe Engineering did the survey of the property. So he did get it. The shed is actually just off, not by much, but it is off. And just so you know, I'm a resident on Pontiac Lake. I've lived on the lake for 20 years now. And this will be the 5th property that I've either built or worked on the house. And I understand the challenges of what we have to work with on the lake. I'm not sure that there are any conforming properties on the lake, maybe on the north side off Gale Road where I'm at, but the lake has a lot of small lots, older cottages, and they're either really on really narrow lots or really shallow lots, or they get stuck on both. So it does make it a challenge making improvements and building on the lake. And I've heard tonight, it used to be the up north 50 years ago was White Lake, but as a property owner on Pontiac Lake, over the last 5-7 years, we've seen some building on the lake and a lot of remodeling and cleaning up some of the old abandoned properties, which is what that property was to the south. A lot 82 was an old abandoned cottage for, I think, 30-40 years. And there's been a lot of improvements on Kingston and new builds. So I'm pretty certain that most of the residents are happy on the property values rising. The setback that I was looking for was on the setback from the road. And I did the property across the street last year, and Brent had told me that, because I thought I had to go to the ZBA for that, but Brent, the building inspector, told me that it was going off the average setbacks from the road, which on Kingston is 15 feet. Once you cross over that bridge past Buckingham, the setbacks from the actual pavement to the houses, the average is 15 feet. So I do understand that we're not working with averages anymore. And apparently he shouldn't have been doing that last year either. I've always had a good relationship with the building department, with Brent and with Sean, going over the projects before and dealing with the challenges on these. On the lot 83, this one's a little wider than the lot I built on last year across the street. It's 10 feet wider. In living on the lake, our challenge is the space and the room between the houses. And there are a lot of lots where they're I know that the 5-foot setback, you're aware that a lot of them are 5-foot setbacks on this lake, and a lot of them are smaller than the 5-foot setback. So I wasn't going for any of the side setbacks. I was trying to keep the 30-foot from the water's edge and the 10-foot setbacks on each side of the property to the neighbor's property. So I was going for 18.2 foot for the setback from the actual street on that north corner of the house. The garage side actually gets a little better on the setback, but it's that front corner, which is 18.2 feet. And like I mentioned, the average setback for the homes on Kingston are 15 feet. The neighboring properties, if you guys got to drive down there, once you pass like lot 84 and go down, the average ones through there's 10-foot setbacks off the street. There's a 6.5-foot setback off the street. There's one that's 4 foot off the street to the actual structure. but it's a dead end street. I'm not trying to build a massive mansion on this lot, but I do want to continue the trend of getting some higher end houses on the lake and building up our values because it helps everybody on the lake. The first floor is 955 square foot of living space. The two challenges that I have are both the 2267 Kingston and lot 84. Neither one of them meet their side setbacks. So on 2267, which is the lot 82, they're only 4 feet from the property line. So I know the board has approved coverages of 5 foot setbacks, but I think in this case, if I went for 5 foot setbacks on the sides, it would cause more issues with aesthetics in the neighborhood and with both adjoining properties because they're both smaller homes with no garages, limited parking, and it would cause access issues around the house. After meeting with Justin and getting some input from him and from Sean and looking at the surrounding homes in the dead end street and their setbacks to the road, we kind of thought that the best approach was leaving the side setbacks and the lakeside setbacks complying and going for the roadside setback. And I understand every inch of property when you live on a lake is valuable and everyone has their views they're concerned with looking out their windows. In the small yards on the lakeside, no one wants to be stacked on top of each other, and you definitely don't want to be flipping hamburgers on your neighbor's grill still standing in your yard. So I appreciate the input that Sean gave me and Justin gave me. I mean, I feel the best approach for this is really just putting it, it actually, like if you looked on the right side as you drove into those lots, this house would have the farthest setback from the road of any of the 10 houses on the right side of the road all the way to the end of Kingston. So I appreciate your guys' consideration of this and working with Justin.
Thank you, Wade. Does anybody have any questions of the proponent?
Yes, I have a comment. I appreciate Mr. Paris's mentioning that shed being slid. When I went out to look at the site, I saw the well was not where it was shown on the site plan. And I said, aha, the site plan's wrong. Well, the site plan's right. The well is shown right, but he slid because the well is actually southeasterly from the shed, not in the corner of the shed. So the fact that he slid that shed around kind of makes everything fall into place because you did have 2 property markers in the back of the property. And by lining those up, you could pretty much see where that property line was. And it looked like the well was very close, but probably on the neighbor property. So anyway, moving the shed kind of explains that. I think maybe there's a little more problem with the other neighbor and that sanitary sewer lead that appears across the corner of your lot. I don't know what you do with that. If you have the neighbor move the sewer lead or you give them an easement to keep it on that lot. I'm not sure how you would handle that, but anyway, that's what I noticed from the site walk.
Thank you, Cliff. Anybody else have anything? You go ahead, Wade.
The on lot 82, the grinder pump is on that same side of the house. That's why we were keeping the new grinder pump on that same side. So both accesses for the pressurized sewer system are on that side between lot 83 and lot 82.
Okay. Does the lead that runs out to the street run across the corner of your parcel?
That's the proposed, I believe.
Yeah, you can see it almost.
Yeah, but I never even paid attention.
Driveway.
Yeah, where it's kicking right through where they come off it. I guess that would be something I'd have to deal with when I talk to him about the sewer system on that, the grinder on the.
It might just grant him a narrow easement that allows him to keep it there.
Yeah.
Any other questions of the proponent? If not, Brian, is there anybody waiting that wishes to speak on this?
Yes, we do have one hand raised. It's 0541. If you could press *6, that will unmute you, and then say your name and address for the record. *0541, are you there?
You might explain again how they get off mute.
Yeah, if you press *6, that will unmute you.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, I'm sorry about that. This is Eric Abadesian, 2300 Kingston, the shed guy. Was just listening in. Actually spoke to Justin like he had said. Only reason why I'm chiming in is wanted to clarify about that shed. Wade was nice enough to put me onto his land survey company, and after they had set the stakes, I moved it back onto the property. The shed was there when I purchased the home in 15. But in reiterating what I had said to Justin, after I saw the layout from Wade, I was really excited. I said, it was real nice of him, especially having an empty lot all these years, that he kept away or gave me some kind of easement into having a structure next to me. So I thought that was really nice and expressed that to Justin. I believe he shared a letter with you as well. And as far as the setback from the water too, that was awesome as well. And was kind of excited to see a house go up and the builder taking into consideration neighbors as well. But that's basically it.
Thank you, Eric. And yes, we do have a statement from you dated December 7th, 2020. It was an email. Good afternoon, Justin. I stopped in today to ask some questions about the drainage system because I didn't quite understand how it was going to be done. That's really my only concern with the entire plans. They briefly explained that my property was going to be protected through drainage, being directed towards the lake and towards the street through grading and downspouts. This is pretty much what you had told me, but I guess I can't picture it in my mind. Does this mean there will be a grade change to create a channel for the water to travel towards the lake or some underground drain tile system? I would appreciate any clarification you could provide. I was informed that if I wanted to send you some input as far as what I feel about the proposed home, all I have to say is, wow, it looks great and should really add to our beautiful area. I personally appreciate Wade taking in consideration the neighbor's water view and the side setbacks, especially after having an empty lot all this time. It will really help transitioning to have a new structure next door. In conclusion, as long as the drainage is sufficient, I personally don't see any reason why the plans shouldn't be allowed to go forth and grant the variance requested. I can't wait to see the finished product, and it's signed Eric at 2300 Kingston. Sorry, I am not good with names. I can try it, but it's spelt Avedesan. That's for Hannah to know how to spell it. Thank you. Brian, is there anybody else in the audience? Brian, any other audience requests?
No other hands raised.
Thank you. Then I will close the public hearing, bring it back for any comments, questions, or a motion.
Madam Chairperson?
Yes, Mike.
Unlike the previous request, I believe that this is exactly why this board is put in position to grant variances for practical difficulty and non-self-imposed hardships. I believe the applicant has gone above and beyond in this particular case and trying to work with the township and minimize the variance requests. So if there's anyone out there looking or listening, this proposal is substantially different than the previous one, and I wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Mike. And with that, would anybody like to entertain a motion?
Just want to say that I concur
Thank you, Nick.
with Mr. Powell.
Yes, I'd also like to comment that I appreciate Mr. Paris's preparing that aerial photography documenting the setbacks that the different homes on that street have to the road right away. That's very helpful. I think it helps a lot. It shows you made the effort to try to prove your case, and I think you did a good job.
Thank you, Cliff. Are we ready to entertain a motion?
I will make a motion.
Thank you, Debbie.
I move to approve the variances requested by Wade Paris from Article 3.1.6E of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 12-14-233-007 in order to construct a new house that would exceed the allowed lot coverage by 6.22% and encroach 13.2 feet into the required front yard setback. A 20-foot variance from the required lot width and 6,913 square foot variance from the required lot size are also granted from Article 3.1.6.E. This approval will have the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department. The roof line along the north and south sides of the house shall be guttered and downspouted with a solid storm sewer system directed towards the lake.
Thank you. And do we have a support on that, please?
I'll support.
Thank you. And with that, we have a motion by Debbie DeHart, a support by Cliff Seaver to approve this variance. May we have a roll call, please, Hannah?
DeHart,
Yes, the applicant has a non-conforming parcel here and has worked diligently to minimize the variances.
Seaver,
Yes, I appreciate the applicant maintaining those side yard setbacks, especially when the neighbors' setbacks are so tight. So I think you did a great job on this and I support it.
Powell,
I'm going to vote yes as well. I appreciate the setback from the lake. The view of the water is a primary concern to all the neighbors, and he has not blocked the view because he set the house back the same as the neighbors. And quite frankly, he's proved his case that this is a non-self-imposed practical difficulty, and so I'm voting yes.
Spencer,
Yes, this is a non-conforming lot, and for all of the other reasons so indicated this evening, I also am in favor of approving this. You have your variance, sir.
I need shellac.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It already passed, but I'll still throw something in. It's all good, Joe.
I told you. I'd get
I'm going to vote yes for all the reasons stated, especially the ones that Joe said. And the fact that you've been so amazingly neighborly in your approach, and we really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the board and to Justin, and have a good holiday, guys.
Okay, Wade, just so you know, give staff a few days to get a rough draft of the minutes together. You'll need it to go to the building department with. And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good holiday.
Thank you. Okay, let's.
It's okay. I'm just having fun.
It's getting late, people.
It's getting late. Hey, here's the good news. We're about half-ish way done.
Yeah, okay. Our next case is Margaret Lepowski. The address is 1240 Castlewood, also identified as, we didn't have it in here, but it is identified as 1234 329-018. The applicant is requesting to construct a covered porch in addition to a single-family house requiring variances from Article 3.1.6.E R1D, single-family residential, front yard setback, side yard setback, minimum lot area, and minimum lot width. A variance is also required from Article 5.7.A due to the proposed setback from an accessory building. A variance from Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures, will be required due to both the value of improvements and the increase in cubic content. And with that, 21 owners within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, and no letters returned by United States Mail. And may we have staff report, please?
Sure, I guess I could do that.
Okay.
So as the chair said, this property is located at 1240 Castlewood Drive. It's located on Sugden Lake and zoned R1D. On the monitor is a survey that was provided by the applicant. This survey was dated 1987. In my staff report, I did note that the survey that was provided isn't accurate. It doesn't show the correct platted front lot line. So the house is non-conforming to the front yard setback. The house and also the side yard setback, it's 4.3 feet from the south side lot line. What the survey shows is 17.83 feet from what the survey calls the front lot line. It's actually the edge of the street. The platted lot does not extend all the way to the pavement edge of Castlewood. So just based on a rough GIS measurement, the setback is approximately 10 feet. Again, that's not a survey, that's just an approximation. So the proposed addition is here. That would be on the north side of the house. It would be 194 square feet in size. It's a single-story addition. It would be located 8 feet from this detached garage that's located to the north. The zoning ordinance in Article 5, Section 7, subsection A requires a minimum 10-foot setback between a principal structure and an accessory structure in order to reduce the setback for the detached structure from the side lot line. So if a detached structure is within 10 feet of a house, it becomes a part of the house and has to be held to the same setback as the principal building. So the 10-foot setback on the side. So this, based on the survey, this garage is 4 feet from the north side lot line. Again, with a minimum 10-foot setback required on the side, the zoning ordinance prohibits the zoning board of appeals from granting a variance of less than 5 feet for safety reasons. The applicant did request a 5-foot variance for the side yard setback and indicated in their application materials that they would be willing to reconstruct the north wall of the garage to be 5 feet from the side lot line. There's also a covered porch addition that's on the front of the house, which would be the eastern portion of the building. That's 6 feet by 11 feet in size. That's 66 square feet. Again, in R1D, it's a 30-foot front yard setback. Again, this is a little tricky with the plans that were provided because this isn't the actual front lot line. So we don't know what the current setback is. We don't really know what the proposed setback is for the covered porch that's being requested. Again, the parcel's non-conforming as well. 80 feet is required at the street line, and with 65 feet, they're requesting a 15-foot variance for the lot width. Then with 12,000 square feet required for the lot size, this parcel at it's 5,000. Oh, I'm sorry. The parcel 6,316.2 square feet in size, so they're requesting a 5,683.8 square foot variance for the lot size. Again, with a non-conforming structure, the ordinance limits the value of improvements in a 12-month period to 50% of the state equalized value of the building. This current structure has an SEV of $55,960, which would make the maximum extent of improvements $27,980. The value that the applicant's proposing is $35,000. So variance to exceed the allowed value of improvements by 125% is being requested. I flew through that pretty quickly. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions of staff?
So it appears,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Debbie. Go ahead.
Now, my only question is, the existing garage is within the 5-foot setback array, so it's already not conforming.
Correct.
So they're not, I realize that they're creating, so we would consider it like an attached structure because they're getting within, is it 10 feet to the detached garage?
Correct.
That's already there. So I guess I'm a little, do we have to say then that, yes, it has to stay at 5 feet, even though it's already there?
Well, it's at 4 feet now, so
I mean, I know, do we have to make them, or is this something that we can't?
Well, it's just like the other variances, like with roof lines projecting and,
Right.
into a side yard setback, they're making some type of modification that triggers that standard. So that's where that came into play.
Okay.
So is the modification going deeper into the 5 yards or 5 feet or not?
No.
No, but to grant a variance for the side yard setback, you can't grant a 6-foot variance for the side yard setback because then that's 4 feet. The ordinance limits you to granting a variance of 5 feet on the side. So I understand where you're going. The existing 4-foot setback is there.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah, but to get them, if you want to grant a variance for the addition, then that's the setback or the variance that you have to grant for the setback.
And the garage, if I'm looking at it right, is about 2,400 square feet, right?
It's a very small garage. I would say it's a 1-car garage that's maybe
24 point something.
I would say it's probably under 200 square feet in size. 20 by 12. So
Yeah.
that's quick math, 240. You said 2,400. You added an extra zero.
I'm sorry. Yes, yeah, you caught me.
You scared
I
me.
meant 240. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I freaked you out. My bad. So 200. Sorry.
You don't freak me out. 2,400 freaked me out.
What are we doing with this 3,000 square foot mansion on that garage? Yeah. Okay.
So
Sorry.
Justin, if the garage has to be brought in a foot or more because of the overhang, will a 1-car be still able to fit in there?
I mean, the applicant said that they would be willing to make that modification. That was something that they offered. That wasn't to get this into compliance. So I think that they've probably got their parking situation figured out. But I don't want to speak for them.
Thank you.
Mike, go ahead.
Yes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but we have granted variances many times to where we haven't required the existing non-conforming setback modified. You're not really telling us that staff is telling us that we have to make them move that garage or shrink that garage down to minimize or eliminate that 4.5 foot non-conforming setback. You're not telling us that we have to do that, are you?
That's my recommendation, and you can do with that what you want.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, that's my interpretation of the zoning ordinance. So.
And we have the right to interpret it differently than you, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's just my
Okay.
recommendation.
Thank you.
One comment. I know those Oakland County GIS maps, the aerial photos are notoriously known for great amount of errors.
Right.
I'm not so sure their survey, we can claim their survey is wrong based on the aerial photo. If you look at that photo, they show the road right away going right through the garage and the house next door. And I'm not so sure that's the case. Sometimes they try to superimpose those property lines on an aerial photo that has some stretch to it. And quite often property lines overlap onto adjacent properties, and you can't always call them wrong because the aerial photo shows it off a little bit. But the real issue I had with that, they show a dimension of 16 feet, 7 inches from their proposed porch roof overhang they're going to install to the road right away, but they didn't dimension that perpendicular to the road right away. They just kind of follow the projection of the porch, which is the wrong way to measure a front yard setback. So I'm not sure we can do anything tonight not knowing what that front yard setback is, at least with regard to that front yard setback. I mean, at this point, we don't know what that dimension is, and I don't believe they do either. So it would seem that they would need to have their surveyor confirm what that dimension really is so we know how much of a variance to grant.
I agree with you, Cliff.
So to piggyback on that, to my colleagues there, and certainly Cliff is right on, I would not recommend that we grant any variance for that front yard setback. That doesn't mean that we can't grant a variance for the side issue or the other one. Because whatever they come up with, it's going to have to be re-advertised and renoticed, because that change is going to impact the variance request. So we can make a modification, or we can make a variance to one. But we can't do both of them.
So then we would table the other, because if we denied it, then they couldn't come back?
Well, whether we deny it or we table it doesn't matter, because it's got to be re-notified. And I guess the question is to Justin, then that's a good point, Debbie. If we table it, they don't have to reapply and repay their fee, correct?
So they'd have to pay a renoticing fee, which is reduced from the full application fee.
Yes, okay, thank you.
If there's no other questions of staff at this time, I'll invite the proponent to speak. I see you're there, Margaret, so.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
So I'm Margaret. Peggy is what I go by, and this is my daughter, Megan. We jointly own this home, and Megan lives there with her fiance. I just want to let you know that we've had this home in our family since 1985. It was originally purchased by my sister, and the survey that we submitted was my sister had that survey done back in 1987 because she was thinking about putting an addition on the cottage at the time, and there was a septic field at that time, so it wasn't feasible for her. So she ended up buying a larger home and selling it to my other sister, who used it as a cottage and loved it for many years. And then it went to her boys, and we ended up, when the boys wanted to get rid of it, we ended up buying it from them. I think it was in 2017, and my daughter started homesteading there. But the survey, since you brought it up back then, that was done by Mr. McCoy, who was quite a well-known surveyor in the area. He's retired now. He's still alive because I went and visited him. And, but he claimed that the survey was accurate to less than like 0.8%. And at that time, the road was not paved. So, you know, when they paved the road, because I live on Burl Drive, they came and paved our roads many years ago. And I noticed that the road kind of gave us a little more frontage and got closer to the homes across the street. So I don't know what they did with the road. But anyway, we figured the survey was still valid because, I mean, the house hasn't moved and
nothing's been done to it.
so that's why we decided not to have another survey done, because this was we thought of a legitimate survey. But anyway, so my daughter, like I said, has been living in the home for 3 years.
For 3 years.
With her boyfriend, and it's a small home. It's 720 square feet, and it's basically 2 rooms, a bedroom and a living room. And so the living room is also, other than a living room, it's also their dining room. It's also, her fiance's in college, so he has to study in the living room, and they have to fold laundry in the living room. And my daughter's a teacher in the area. So lately she also is using the living room for her classroom, and it's pretty tight. So we thought that this little 200 square foot, a little less than 200 square foot addition would kind of give them a little breathing room and give them an area to, you know, have a table and do some laundry and put a desk. So when we were planning the addition, we knew that it was a non-conforming lot. And we knew that, you know, you need a 12,000 square foot lot. It's not anywhere near that. And we also knew that there's a minimum square footage of 1,000 square feet. So we tried to come up with a plan while retaining kind of the quaintness of the neighborhood, because they're all small lots. I think most of them are non-conforming with cottages. And so we wanted to keep the quaintness of the cottage and just not overbuild for the lot. But
but also get close to the 1,000 square feet too.
Yeah, so we got pretty close to getting the 1,000 square feet in. It's 900 something. And obviously we can't change the size of the lot, but we did stay, you know, just under the 20% lot coverage to building coverage, which we know is code. We couldn't do both. If we went over 1,000 square feet, we would have gone over the other code. So we thought this was best, considering the size of the lot, the other homes in the neighborhood, and so on. And I just want to reiterate that, you know, the garage issue, we didn't know that was an issue because we're not really doing anything to the garage. We're only adding to the one side of the home, and that side of the home to the lot line is 27 feet. I mean, if you don't count the garage, which I know Justin has explained that you have to. But so we would still, if you discount the garage, we would still be about 18 feet from the lot line on that side. And it would be 8 feet from just the back corner of the garage. The garage is not like right next to the house. It's forward from the house. So
it's hard to tell because the lot's kind of on an angle. So it really is only that small corner that is near it, but obviously that still counts. But
the other thing I just wanted to mention is that the porch is already there. And I see that it is not on the, survey, but there is an existing porch, and there has always been since we've known, I mean, since my sister lived there in 1985, there's always been a front porch. So we're not building a front porch. We're just building a small roof to cover the porch. And we're not even going to cover the whole porch, just a portion to protect the wood door that's starting to get faded from the sun. It's starting to ruin the door.
And to make it look cute.
And to make it look cute, which is my daughter's most number one, requirement. So I think that's what I wanted to say. Yeah. As far as the setback from the front, we would not be coming any closer to the street than the porch already is. The actual, I don't know if any of you drove by the home, but the porch is already there. We're not building a porch. We're just building the cover on the porch. I don't know if that clarifies things for you at all, but that is the plan.
Just for the record, each and every one of us do drive by to look at the property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't do this blind.
Okay.
So, any questions of the proponent?
I just want to say that I wrote right in my notes that I thought it was cute already.
Thank you.
That's all my daughter.
Did you see my Christmas lights?
I did.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, I just want to state that I don't think that we're questioning the McCoy survey at all. Mr. Sieber was just pointing out the fact that in order for us to consider a variance request, the dimension between the corner of your front porch and the actual property line is what we need, because it was drawn at the wrong angle. And so even if we really wanted to grant the variance, I'll be asking staff how we might do that and give the staff maybe the ability to fill in the blank that was kind of left in on a form that we have. But we weren't questioning a McCoy survey or anything. It was just your plot plan didn't have the dimensions shown properly. And so that's leaves us a little bit of a problem.
On the architectural drawing, it doesn't have that dimension?
It has the dimension, but it's drawn at the wrong angle.
Okay, it wasn't drawn based on my survey? I don't know. I don't have that in front of me.
Unfortunately, you're dealing with two civil engineers here that kind of think a little differently than you do. So staff will be able to help you with that, I think.
Okay. So does that mean Justin will help me?
Yes, depending on what answers he gives us and how much motion might be.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no other questions of the proponent, Brian, is there anybody in the audience that's waiting to speak on this case, please?
We have no hands raised at the moment. We do have two callers. If either of you would like to speak, press *9 to raise your hand. And we'll give it a few seconds. No, still no one raising a hand.
Thank you, Brian. Then I will close the public hearing and bring it
Madam
back.
Chair, you never actually said the words, "I'm going to open the public hearing." You just asked if anyone was in the audience waiting to speak. So you really should open it and close it.
Okay.
Just technicality.
I quit. No. Just joking.
No,
Just
no,
joking.
no, no.
I will open the public hearing, and seeing that nobody from the public wishes to speak on this case, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for a discussion or decision or a motion.
I just want to make a comment that I really do appreciate their attempt to work within all the guidelines, within the boundaries, everything. So I think that's really admirable. I recognize the issue that Mr. Powell is bringing up, that others are bringing up about, exactly where is the boundary. So that's something we have to work with. But I just appreciate the spirit of trying to work within that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Yes, and to clarify it a little bit more, your drawing shows a variance setback less than what you really need. If the line is drawn correctly, there's going to be a larger variance than what your line is actually showing, I believe. So that's where our dilemma is, and it was advertised, I believe. Justin, it was advertised as what's shown on the plan, correct?
So the way we advertise it is a front yard setback variance. So I specifically exclude the dimension in case it is
Beautiful.
going to change.
We love you, Justin.
You just made Mr. Powell's dreams.
Yeah, and as another point, Justin, they could take 2 feet off the corner of their garage or angle their addition a little bit differently to create that 10 feet, and it doesn't change the side yard setback at all. It just allows you to check a little box in your mind there in the variance request and the movement of the garage that 5 foot. And so there are more than one way to do it, and you don't end up changing anything. And so that's why I was questioning the need to move that garage 5 feet off that property line.
I would just prefer if there was a 10-foot setback. I mean, something's got to give here where there's a nonconformity that's being expanded. So, I mean, the house is nonconforming and they're adding on to it. So that's where that was coming from. I mean, I think that there should be some give and take here where something is going to happen, whether it's maybe the garage stays, the addition stays 10 feet away from the garage. I mean, I think there should be something. So.
Yeah, and in my opinion, there comes a point to where bureaucracy gets in the way of logic and practical difficulty, and so I'm going to respectfully disagree with where you're going there. I'm just one vote, however. So the question I asked my colleagues here, if you go to and maybe Justin can put up the plan again that shows the setback from the right-of-way line there. So they're showing a 16-foot 7-inch setback. But Mr. Sieber pointed out properly that line needs to be perpendicular to the right-of-way line, not perpendicular to the addition. So that setback is really going to be something less, maybe closer to 15 feet instead of the 16-foot 7. And if somebody challenged me, I love doing geometry, but in this particular case, I don't feel like doing it. If Justin, if we were to make a motion, because quite frankly, I love the idea of a roof over top of that porch. If we were to make a motion that gave them a little bit of leeway, but they couldn't extend it beyond the porch. What's your feeling about a non-specific dimension or setback variance along that Castlewood?
I would say that the board should, in this situation, grant a number that they feel comfortable with. And so if it doesn't get to that point, then it's within what was granted, if that makes sense.
I like that. Thank you, Justin. Yes. Okay, Madam Chairman, thank you.
You're welcome, Mike. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have one comment, kind of following up on what Michael said about that garage. To try to shave a foot off that garage when you have the roof rafters and the foundation and the wall, I find that just overly burdensome and not really accomplishing that much from a practical standpoint. In my mind, I would support leaving that garage wall the way it is and not requiring a foot of that to be removed.
If there's any further discussion, speak now. If not,
Forever hold your peace.
yeah, I was going to leave that one to you.
You almost said it.
My
I don't
days,
have to legally say that anymore.
days of court are long over. Shall we bring it back to the board for a discussion, a motion?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I'm ready to make a motion unless my colleagues don't want me to.
We'd love you
Please
to.
do.
Oh, yeah, I can all see him now. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I make this motion finding the fact that there is a practical difficulty in this particular lot and the homes that are on it that are they're not responsible for. So I don't find a self-imposed hardship in this particular case. And therefore, I move to approve the variances requested by Margaret Lepodowski from Article 3.1.6.e and Article 5.7.a of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 1234-129-018, identified as 1240 Castlewood Drive, in order to construct a covered porch that would encroach. Justin, what is the required setback for the front yard?
30 feet.
Okay, that would encroach 16 feet into the required front yard setback. Just to make it clear here, that is assuming the overhead porch is going to be within 14 feet of the right of way. In addition, that would encroach 2 feet into the required setback from the detached garage and a 5-foot variance from the north side lot line.
Point of order. I wouldn't
I'm
grant,
sorry.
I wouldn't grant that.
Yes, thank you. And so the encroach 2 feet into the required setback from the detached garage, period. Also, a variance from Article 7.28.a is also granted to exceed the allowable value of improvements to a non-conforming structure by 125%. A 15-foot variance from the required lot width and a 5,683.8. It's amazing you can get that close, Justin. 0.8 square foot variance from the required lot size are also granted from Article 3.1.6e. This approval will have the following conditions. The applicant will obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department. And prior to construction of the covered porch, I'm going to change that. Prior to the construction of the front porch, a proper dimension, a proposed dimension for the covered porch shall be verified by the staff, and it be not less than 14 feet to the front lot line. And following construction of the addition and the, nope, I'm not going to do that one either. So I'd leave it as stated.
Second.
Okay, so my understanding then, Mike, is that we are not going to consider the 5-foot variance from the north side lot line. That is totally removed. And that we are not requiring a survey of the covered porch area. You just want the proposed dimensions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. With that,
That was already seconded. Yep.
Pardon? I'm sorry.
I seconded that. Yep.
Thank you, Nick. So a motion from Mike and a support by Nick for this variance for approval. May we have a roll call, please, Hannah?
Powell,
I'm going to vote yes. I believe there is a practical difficulty in this request and a non-self-imposed hardship.
Shellac,
Yes, the reasons stated.
DeHart,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Spencer,
Yes, this is a non-conforming lot, and for the reasons stated, I am voting yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Okay, we got all of us this time around, right? So with that, Margaret, Peggy,
Yes.
you have your variance. Please give
Thank
staff
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Please give staff a few days to get a rough draft copy of the minutes to you. You'll need that to go before the building department. And if you don't pull a permit within 6 months, this variance will expire and you'll have to return to us again.
Okay.
Good
Thank you.
luck.
Thank you so
very
much.
You're welcome. Our next case is Michael Epley. The location is 414 Lakeview, also identified as 1226-334-015. The applicant requests to construct an addition to a single-family house requiring variances from Article 3.1.6.e, R1D, single-family residential, side yard setback, lot coverage, and minimum lot area. A variance from Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures, will be required due to both the value of improvements and the increase in cubic content. For the record, 23 owners within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance request. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, none returned by United States Mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
Justin's muted.
Justin, you're muted. All right,
Sorry.
okay, I was just coming to tell you.
So this property, as the chair said, at 414 Lakeview Drive is approximately 0.2 of an acre in size and zoned R1D. It's located on Pontiac Lake. The applicant who has applied for the variances on behalf of the property owner is proposing to construct a garage and a 2-story addition on the existing house, which is the current house is non-conforming to setbacks. It's located 3 feet from the east side lot line, and a minimum 10-foot side yard setback is required in R1D. The parcel is also non-conforming to lot area. 12,000 square feet is required, and this parcel is 9,191 square feet in size. So they're 2,809 square feet deficient. The first floor addition is 452.4 square feet in size and would be located on the west side of the house. The second story addition would be 1,012 square feet in size. The proposed 2-car garage is located to the west of the addition. The west wall of the garage is located 5 feet from the side lot line. However, the roof overhang would project closer to the property line, and Article 5, Section 3 of the zoning ordinance prohibits roofs, gutters, windows, and open balconies from projecting closer than 5 feet to a lot line. The lot coverage would also be expanding with the addition at 29.38%. That's 9.38% over the allowed coverage of 20%. So the applicant's requesting a variance for that. And again, with the value of improvements to a non-conforming structure, 50% of the state equalized value in any 12-month period, can be made in repairs and maintenance. So based on the SEV of the structure at $108,390, the maximum extent of improvements cannot exceed $54,195. The value of the proposed work is $300,000. So a variance to exceed the allowed value of improvements by 553.5% is requested. With that, I know the applicant is present, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Justin, when you first started, you indicated that it was located on Pontiac Lake.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Cedar Island Lake.
I just wanted to make sure that our records were correct on that.
Yeah, I apologize.
Nope, not a problem. Any questions for staff?
Is this one lot or a combination of two?
I believe it's a double lot.
Does that in any way affect the whole SEV thing?
I mean, not for the structure. Yeah, it might have a higher land value, but when we factor out the structure value when we make the calculation for improvements. So we totally factor out
So
whatever
it's,
the land
it's
is
not
worth.
divided. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
So it's not divided in half then based on a double lot.
Right. The land is, we take the land out of it completely when we do the calculation, and we just look at the value of the structure.
Okay, just curious. That's
Yep.
helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff?
Hmm.
If not, then Michael, you're up. Let us know what you want to do, please, sir.
Good evening. I almost want to say good night.
Good morning. Good
Yeah,
morning.
probably.
Right. So with the practical difficulty here, from the very beginning, we knew kind of what it was going to be. It was going to be really, as it pertains to Oakland County. As you see, the existing septic is in the front, and with adding any type of garage at all, really anything to that front, there was some a lot of discussion with Matt Maynard with what the current septic field was entailed and what options it had. Even going to the rear, the well is on the lakeside, which I think is pretty common to some of those properties back there. So the biggest orchestrating that we've done with the design had been to going around that. We originally anticipated with the 20% to 29%, which is what ended up being proposed as a separate variance. We really actually tried to, we anticipated that being just under 20% to not have this as an additional variance. What I did not forecast was the existing shed as well as the deck area. I did not accommodate for that. So one element on the southeast side setback for the upper story. Currently, we're unconforming on that lot line where I think it's 4 feet. I wish I had the blown up drawings with me, but ultimately the upper story, there should be elevations shown as well. But that upper story, we pulled back away from the southeast lot line intentionally. You'll see that dotted line there. That was to also not have to have an additional request for another side lot variance. The opposite corner is really what I want to address the most. Then I guess it would be the northwest corner. That side setback, why it's so critical is the entry that would be necessary from the roadside to approach the driveway. The garage is a very minimal size garage, to say the least. My truck would not fit in that garage. So if we shrunk it and kind of got a little bit farther away from that side setback, then the approach to that garage would start to encroach on top of what's being required to stay away from the coverage of the septic field. So that's the back and forth we went through for quite some time to kind of try and figure out what would be the best variance request. And again, the 20% that was that just kind of hit me later on. I didn't even realize that was going to be a part of this. I anticipated just one variance request on the side lot. And I don't think I was aware of the value request. So that was also kind of hit from the side, but yeah, that's what I have to say. Any questions from you guys?
Thank you. Any questions for the proponent? Go ahead, Mike.
So, Mr. Repley, you're representing that the reason why you need that 5 foot side yard setback is because it would, if you didn't have that, the garage door would have to be pushed closer to the house, and you would then be conflicting with the existing septic field. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's from my understand the covering over any top of the septic field with cement or anything compaction like that is going to eliminate the ability for it to, I call it breathe, but you understand, from the septic tanks.
No, that's correct. And
yeah, so.
No, I totally understand, and that's correct. And anything you can do to appease the health department is
that's
certainly very important.
Yeah.
I guess the question that I have: are you the owner of this home?
No. Justin, actually, he is here, I believe, tonight as well. I'm sorry, Jordan Zaleski. He's the owner. I'm the builder. Jordan is here this evening as well.
And I think you're right. I think the depth of the garage is very minimal, and you're right. Your truck would not fit in it. I'm having a little bit of a problem addressing the side yard setback because you certainly don't have a right or to have as big a garage as you might want. A single car garage would not change the amount of encroachment or the approaching of that septic field, but it would give us that 10-foot setback. You'd end up with a 15-foot wide garage and for a one-car garage. My concern is there's a setback requirement between houses for a reason. You don't want one home pushed too close to another home for fire protection reasons. And then also you have a well that's lakeside. Somehow a well company is going to have to come out and actually set over top of that well to improve it, to replace it, to maintain it, to put a new pump, however, whatever service is needed. And they just are not going to be able to navigate down the west side of that garage area. And you certainly have no room on the east side of the house. And so I'm seeing I'm just trying to deal with a problem that I foresee granting that side yard setback. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions of the proponent? If not, I will open the public hearing. Brian, is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on this case?
We have no hands raised at the moment. We do have two callers. If either of the callers would like to speak, press *9 to raise your hand. And we'll give it a few moments here. No hands are raised at this time.
Thank you, Brian. Then I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any additional comments, questions of the proponent, of staff.
I just appreciate Mr. Powell's concerns about, to be blunt, getting around the house. I have no other way to put it, just getting around the house.
Can I address that really quick too? There's a pretty unique grade to that particular lot. It's particularly on that side, actually, it drops off quite a bit. It shows a little bit on the elevation drawing. Well, actually, the engineering drawings show it pretty well, but it's a pretty quick drop off. I think as the property stands, we could effectively say the same thing as it pertains to maintenance to the well. That's my own personal opinion. I've been there multiple times. Addressing that well would be difficult no matter how you slice it, because for the most part, the house sits pretty high with respect to the lake. The road is pretty high with respect to the lake. And just as a quick side note too, also to Mike, your comments about the size. A single car garage, although I feel like that's an appropriate response as an avenue to address the side setback, Two elements are a little unique to me. One is a single car garage. I guess in today's standpoint, so I don't know if unique is the right word, but you just don't see it very much. I don't know if it would be fitting to the house. That's merely subjective. That's my own personal opinion. But more practically is getting your car over to that garage. If you look at that, if you look at the site plan, it's still the same issue. Kind of the same issue is that we were talking about with the two-car garage. We're still flirting with that field. Even
So
with the
point of information, Madam Chairwoman, this is a board part of the conversation. I'm just trying to understand where we're at right now.
Oh,
I don't want to be rude. I just want to understand where we're at right now.
no,
Yeah, not to be rude to Mr.
Right.
Epley. I just want to understand where we're at right now.
well, we are back to the point where the public hearing has been closed. And if there's any questions or any comments,
We do have one person who has raised a hand now. I don't know if you want to reopen it to the public or not.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
What would it hurt? That's good.
yeah, go ahead, Brian, let him in, please.
Okay.
Yeah, talk.
6832, if you press *6, you can unmute yourself.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we have your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jordan Zaleski, and I'm the owner of the property.
Welcome.
I just I thought it would be fitting that I chime in, and apparently to get in, it's not #9, it's *9. So I was trying to raise my hand during public speaking, but I was pressing the wrong button, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Just a couple of comments. I think that Mike has outlined, and I think what's on paper outlines pretty well the struggles, that we have with doing an addition on this property. Mainly the septic is the big hurdle here, and in order to in order to do anything really worthwhile, like Mike was saying, we needed to push out kind of beyond that 10-foot setback. So, I'll tell you this. I grew up on this lake, Cedar Island Lake. My wife grew up on this lake, Cedar Island Lake. Her family lives on this lake, and we absolutely love the property. We bought the house that's there currently in 2017. We had our first child in it in 2018 and our second child in it in 2019. So you can see where things are going here. We're a little strapped for space, which is, why we're wanting to do something with this house is, we love the property, we love the lake, and, we want our family to grow up here. We love the community. We've spoken with both of our neighbors on either side of us and have explained to them what we're doing here, and nothing but support from either one of them. So just, I'll leave it at that. I guess just one other comment is, I know that we talked a little bit about the existing shed. I can tell you that if this is to be approved, I'm going to blow that thing up and get it out of there. So that shed will be no more. And regarding the well, this is something that Mike and I haven't had a ton, if any, conversations about it. But And I'm not very well educated on this either, but, you know, it was my intention as part of this project to dig a new well. Currently in the house is older, and the pump for our well is actually in the house, so you can kind of hear it run when it is running. And I know that's not, you know, the current design. So it was my intention as part of this project to do something different, to dig a new well. Now, how that works, where it's placed, I'm not quite positive. You know, it's something that would need to be researched and discussed, but you know, those are my comments.
Thank you, sir. I will now close the public hearing. Although technically Jordan is the owner, so he could still sit in. Take it back to the board for a discussion or a motion.
So, first of all, I think this is a good idea. So I don't want to give the wrong impression about that. But I almost feel like as a board, are people just kind of watching our decisions and knowing that we're going to give everything up to the 5-foot line?
No, that's just the maximum that they can go.
I know. You're right. And so what I'm kind of wondering is, are people working to the 10-foot or are they working to the 5-foot? Based on all these YouTube videos that we have of all of our conversations and all of our records and everything else. And this is in no way besmirching any of the people that are proposing things right now. So I don't want to put it that way. I'm just saying, like, we need to keep in mind, are we really a board about 10 feet? Are we really a board about, you know, let it all go to 5?
I think Nick brings up a really good point. You know, why not change the setback in the R1D zoning district if it's always going to be 5 feet? So he brings up a good point.
Exactly. Yeah. Like why? I mean, it's almost a matter of, why do we exist if we're always going to say yes?
Well, my thought on that is that we have an awful lot of unique properties with these lake properties that were platted in the 20s that the ordinance were changed to make the lots larger. So I personally don't feel that we're just granting variances, that we're looking at each case very, very carefully. And these lots are unique lots. They are not, especially these lakefront lots. They were platted years ago before any of these zoning ordinances were in effect.
I think you are 100% correct. You know, we used to be up north. We were up north.
When I first started selling real estate, we were still up north.
Right. And yet at the moment, we're talking about two plots put into one. So is that up north as it was?
Oh, I've seen homes on 25-foot, 23-foot lots.
I mean, but is that, are we making a variance based on, hey, here's the little piece of property that has been in the family for 100 years? Or are we making a variance based on 2 pieces of property that have been put together and now we're squeezing it to the end? Because I'm just looking at this saying, like, this is not one tiny piece of property tightly squeezed. This is more than one piece. And again, there's nothing wrong with the design. There's nothing wrong with the people's intent. It is a beautiful concept. But we have to really start thinking about this. If we're fine, if we are comfortable with always saying 5 feet is the deal, then we got to start saying just 5 feet's a deal. But otherwise, because it's 2 properties put together, not one. And nothing bad about the people designing this. Again, beautiful piece of property, beautiful design. But I don't know.
To piggyback on what you're saying, Nick, you can approach it a different way as well. Do you have a right to having a garage? Or do you want the addition and not need a variance, side yard variance, and then you park outside like they do now, quite frankly? And if you can approach it that way, and they could say, all right, you're not going to grant a variance, therefore I'm not going to have a garage. Or you could say, you know what, maybe a single car garage is better than no car garage or no garage at all. And so it's a sliding scale. And I think you're right. People are saying, what's the maximum that we can get? Then it's up to the township to say no instead of us making the decision ourselves. And it would be nice if people just decided to say, like the last proponent, he gave us the side yards that really we were looking for instead of trying to push the envelope. He recognized the need for that 10-foot side yard setback. And we need to sometimes help proponents see the need for that 10-foot setback.
I mean, and with that, like if I had a couple extra $1 million and I wanted to put a house on a lake in White Lake Township, I would listen to the last 2 years of our conversations, and I would go in and I would buy 2, maybe even 3 properties, collapse a few houses, and I would push it up to 5 feet. Now, I probably wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying, if I could, I could. Because we are agreeing to that almost every single time. I mean, maybe this is just me being like having this weird moment right now where I'm having this moment of clarity, but everything we're doing is always giving up to the 5 feet.
Well, they have to prove a non-self-imposed hardship, and they're requesting something that they don't have a right to do. And
I hear you. You're right. Yeah. And you are the person, and I believe this and I love it. You always remind us we are being called upon to break the law. And I look at this beautiful drawing, and I have to sit there and say, why 5 feet from the edge? Why not 10? I mean, it's a great idea. It's a great proposal, but why 5, not 10? So, I mean, are we always gonna just let it go up to 5?
That's our decision.
I just need to put that out there. Yeah. And I'm the guy that did not grow up on lakes. Okay. So I just think it matters.
Thanks, Nick. Any other comments?
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, if I could jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Cliff.
This is an 80-foot wide lot. I mean, this is really a wide lot from what we normally see. They're proposing a house that's 72 feet wide, and that's with only a 3-foot side yard setback that exists on the one side. So I think with Michael and Nick, I'm really struggling with this additional 5 feet. I think they do need that area. I think the variance request is really because of a self-imposed condition. They could go down to 1-car garage. They could keep a 2-car garage. If you notice on their site plan, they have a lot of building envelope to the back of that house. If they need to keep the garage the way it is and squeeze down the house, the livable portion of the house, and move back a little bit to make up that square footage, they can do that. I understand their request is primarily based on their septic field, the dry well up front, but dry wells can be moved. So, I mean, that's not impossible to do. So I'm really having a problem with that 5 feet. I think it's self-imposed because I want to build a 72-foot wide house. And so that's, don't think it's something that's reasonable to ask for from this board.
Thank you, Cliff. Any other comments?
Can I be heard still?
Justin, can the owner?
That's up to you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know it's not standard protocol, so I do appreciate that. I understand everything that you guys are saying here. I do. Why are we pushing out so wide? Why are we not going back? Why can't we move the septic? And I'll tell you that we've literally explored every single scenario that we possibly could with Oakland County, with our builders. What can we do to really build a home that's fitting on a lake? You know, as a community, we want to, you know, we want our community to grow. We want our community to improve, and that's what I want. That's what you guys want. And so, you know, we really love our community and we really love our property. And I can tell you that we've been at this constantly since we originally chose Mike Epley to kind of guide us in this process back in, I think it was March or April. We've been working on continuous design reviews. We've worked very hard with Matt Maynard at Oakland County. And basically at the end of the day, what Matt told us is he said that there's no way to do anything different with your septic. Even if we were to do anything different with your septic, if we were to put in something new, you'd literally have to tear down your entire house to do that. And so, you know, we're stuck, and I mean, you guys saw the figures, you know, what we're, you know, planning to put into this project financially. And the reality is you don't do that for a single car garage. I know that's, you know, that's just how I feel, and that's how anybody would feel. If I'm putting in that kind of, you know, money into my community, into my home that I'm going to live in for the rest of my life, you're not going to side for a single car garage. I'm sorry. So, you know, really this, you know, we really have explored every option that we really could. And this is where we're at, and it's completely your guys' decision what we do here. But, you know, as a family, you know, we're making decisions based on this decision, you know, where we're putting our money. And unfortunately, if it's from the way this is sounding, if this is not to go in our favor, it sounds like we're packing up and we're finding somewhere else to live. You know, we know the type of life that we'd like to live and the type of home that we'd like to live in. And yeah, if we can't do it, we're going to have to make the tough decision and pack it in. So for what it's worth, you know, that's kind of the personal aspect of this from my side.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nick.
So to Mr. Epley and to the owner, I'll just kind of table my time here. Is there no other way to get the garage on the property without going into the 5 feet? I mean, with keeping it within, the 10 feet, but like just keep the 10 feet
Yeah.
area. Is it not possible?
Well, the way that I've seen it, Nicholas, is the way I kind of chart that lot is that if you shrugged from 5 to 10,
It's gonna take a look right now as you're talking. So.
Yeah, no problem. No.
Yeah,
You
thanks.
almost have to commit to reducing from a 2 to a 1 car. It really is a tipping point, and I'm not saying that to Michael's original comment about going from 5 to 10. Actually, and that was in agreement with your comment too, Nicholas, and I really do appreciate that. I mean, ordinance are for a reason. If everyone were to max out to 5 foot, then what you'd have in White Lake is that every house being 10 feet from each other. Fundamentally, I know that this board is in position to protect that, which I feel like it's very, very powerful to protect it. I think you should protect that. I think the argument that I would want to respectfully place truly is the issue of the septic location. If it were all shifted over, then everything could shift over with it. But we're not even allowed to put a driveway over it and say, well, I'll just shift it over, 10, 20 feet, whatever it is, and just put a drive over it. You wouldn't be able to access your garage in that case. So, as I really do respect and see the value of keeping that ordinance, which, as a side note, I would never think that White Lake should ever default to just making 5 foot the minimum. I lived in White Lake for 9 years, and then I'm back into kind of the north side of Commerce. I kind of golf ball to White Lake. I know it really, really well. And it doesn't feel up north, but it does feel like people have property, people have land. There's tons of lakes all over, and it is your job to protect that. I appreciate that you are challenging us and even myself to protect that. So respectfully, the only thing that I want to at least bring before you as a unified board is this really funky issue of the septic field. And we approached Matt way, way before Justin, way before anybody at the township. We approached Matt. I spoke with him on the phone for a long time. I know Jordan spoke with him multiple times. My architect spoke with him. It's been exhaustive. I mean, it's been the topic. And of course, it was going to be the main priority here. That's why we weren't really adamant about trying to put the second story on the southeast side. We didn't really care about trying to get a variance to go 5 foot there as well, because that's unconforming. Yeah, so I mean, I hope that makes sense. We're really trying to come humbly on this, not to build some mansion or to max out anything particularly. It's just we got a goofy scenario with with the health department.
So and please, I welcome this. Like, please challenge me, chew this up, okay? I mean, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
What would happen if you actually took the garage and pivoted it so that people came in from the side?
I think you'd lose the square footage of ultimately of the entire house. You're replacing now garage with living space. I get what you're saying. It would work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You would bypass the septic area, the driveway area.
Yep. Septic's bypassed, the zoning's bypassed.
You'd have a little bit of a scenario, which I guess could be argued whether it isn't a big deal of turning back around. Like if I were to approach the garage that way,
sure.
The fact that the elevation drops significantly to now back out of my garage and try and, rather than backing,
you might almost have to build up the hill a little bit.
Well, I mean, building up would be an understatement. I mean,
yeah, I know. I'm just being kind.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's already a significant amount of landscape that would have to be involved with regards to maintaining that portion. But I think to add a whole nother section just to kind of back up and go out would be, I'm not saying couldn't be done. I mean,
I'm just wondering if 2 cars is the desire, turning it this way, bringing in maybe even a second floor,
yeah, you would be replacing the first floor addition. Is that what the way I understand you?
I'm just putting it out there, just pivoting the garage. But I see that Justin, our staff person, has a question too.
I was just,
I'm sorry, I'm not the chair, Joe. Sorry about this.
That's okay.
I just wanted to say that the zoning ordinance requires a larger side yard setback if the garage is a side entry. So I just wanted to say that then it would be it's 25 feet for a side entry garage.
Well, that just blew up what I just said. Okay, thanks.
And I'd also
Mike,
like
that just
to,
made it easier for you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry to waste your time.
There are several things that this board is charged with. One of them is eliminating nonconformity. In order for this board to legally grant a variance, we must have a practical difficulty shown to us, and personal circumstances or financial hardships cannot be considered by this board. That's what we as board members are struggling with right here. It's a tough decision that we have to make, but we're not supposed to allow the expansion of nonconformity. They're charged with reducing or eliminating it. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, and I'm certainly ready, willing, and able to make a motion. But before I do, I wanted to point out that there are people that dream about lakefront living. And if the owner thinks that he can just move and have his ideal home on a lakefront somewhere in Oakland County, he better have won the lotto, because that's not going to happen. And so I grew up on Union Lake, and there were 5 of us in a one bathroom home, because we suffered because we wanted to live on the lake. And so there's a give and take. If the owner says, I'd rather move off the lake than have a 1-car garage, that's a decision he can make. We can't make that decision for him, and we can't take money into an account. As Nick was saying, if they really wanted to, he could put a side entry garage, and he could have a living space underneath the garage. He could have flex core pavement, and he could put an addition over top of the garage. So he could reconfigure this and still have his 2-car garage if that was more important than living space that he has. So everyone has to make a decision as to what he can and what he might want to do on his properties. We can't control that. And I apologize for him not being able to he and his family getting exactly what he wants. But by golly, there are millions of people that would love to have that lakefront lot instead of a subdivision lot somewhere else.
That's true.
That being said, unless my colleagues have something else to say, I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, go ahead, Mike, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, not hearing anyone else, I will make the following motion. I move to approve the variances requested, or I approve the following variances that are requested by Michael Epley from Article 3.1.6.e of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 1226-334-015, identified as 414 Lakeview Drive, in order to construct an addition that would have an encroachment, it would not provide any encroachment into the required side yard setback, but would be allowed to exceed the maximum lot coverage by 9.38%. A variance from Article 7.28.a is also granted to exceed the allowable value of improvements to the non-conforming structure by 553.56%. A 2,809 square foot variance from the required lot size is also granted from Article 3.1.6e, and this approval will have the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department, and in no event shall the projection of a roof overhang or any architectural feature or even eave troughs be closer than 5 feet to the west property line, or to actually to the east property line, because the west property line is going to have at least a 10-foot setback. The revised plan shall be submitted prior to issuing a building permit to verify the west side yard is at least a 5-foot minimum setback measured from the roof overhang of the garage.
Okay, so
I have a point of information.
go ahead, Nick.
Mr. Powell, does that effectively take 5 feet off of the west northwest end of that garage?
It does, and I guess I should not have added the fact that you can't have a roof overhang, because I believe you can have a roof overhang. You just can't have your bearing wall closer than 10 feet. Is that correct, Justin, I mean?
You're right. So if the garage has if the wall has a 10-foot setback, the roof overhang can project up to 5 feet. So you wouldn't need that condition.
Yeah, so I would, in my motion, since nobody seconded, I remove that condition that there be a maximum eve overhang of 1 foot on the west property line.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. And before we take it a step further, Hannah, did you get all of that?
I got it.
Thank you.
Hannah.
If I
Yeah,
could-
you're welcome.
Thanks, Hannah, for hanging in with us.
Yeah, and
What
just,
do you
I
have to say, Cliff?
I just wanted to clarify, like,
Just to-
so they're not getting the 5-foot side yard setback.
Correct.
So I guess I don't understand the point of the second condition,
Which was what? I've forgotten already.
The overhang.
the overhang. I guess
Yeah,
we don't even need that. So
you're correct.
the only condition would be, obtaining all necessary permits from the township building department, right? Is that correct?
That is correct, Justin. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah, I can accept a friendly amendment to change my second, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Hannah, once again, you got that, correct?
I have, yep.
Thank you. Then that's a motion by Mr. Powell, support by Mr. Schlack for the approval. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yep. Powell,
I'm going to vote yes. I believe the applicant represented that there is a practical difficulty on the variances granted, but this board does not believe that the westerly setback is a non-self-imposed hardship.
Schlack,
Yes, for the reasons stated. I also believe it will be an aesthetic improvement to the neighborhood.
DeHart,
Yes, for all of the reasons stated.
Spencer,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Sieber,
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
With that, you have your variance. Please give staff a few days to get a rough draft copy of the minutes. You will need to take those to the building department. And you have 6 months in which to pull a permit, or you're before us once again. With that, Justin, we do have some other business this evening. Is that not correct?
I believe we were going to talk about the survey requirement. I'll leave that up to you, whether you want to take that up or not.
Board members, it's 20 minutes to 11. Do we want to take this up now or
No,
for next week?
Can we do it next week?
Yeah, I will say next week that we are going to be limited to 1 hour. We're starting at 5:30.
Talk
What?
fast.
So
What?
there's a planning commission meeting at 7 o'clock, and we have to be done by 6:30 so Merge Live can get the Zoom and YouTube channels ready for planning commission. So we have 3 cases on the agenda for next Thursday, plus approving the meeting schedule for next year. So we might not have enough time to take up the survey requirement next week.
Is that,
So we may have to do
is that
that in
fair to the 3
January.
people?
Well, everybody got the resolution, and why don't we all look it over and
Yeah.
can we leave it like this, Justin? If we can fit it in next week, we address it. If not, we go to January.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that's acceptable to the board?
yes.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, and may I ask a question after we adjourn?
Sure.
Maybe you could ask it before we adjourn, right?
Yes.
And do we have a support?
Does Nick want to talk though before we adjourn?
Do you, Nick?
I would like to talk with us not being recorded.
Okay.
Is that allowed,
That's
Justin?
Do you want to just talk to me after? Because
I just want to talk to my friends.
Then we should talk now.
Yes.
But it's being recorded.
We should, yeah. Unless
This
there's
is a public meeting. We can't do this.
unless there's some legal reason you can tell me that we can adjourn into a closed session, then we should stay live if there's going to be further discussion.
Sure enough. Okay. Let's have a meeting. Let's adjourn. I think we're being I think our people are watching how we're voting, and I think they know how we're I think they know that we're very easily going into the 5 feet. So that's all.
Okay, do we have
I'm
a
just gonna
support?
stop right there and chat with all of you when the governor and everybody else says we can.
Do we have did
I
we get a
support.
support on? Thank you, Mike. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Need a roll call vote on
No,
that?
it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much for all your assistance tonight. I appreciate it. We're sorry we kept you up so late.
See you next week.
No, thank you all for staying up late. So thanks,
Okay.
Hannah, and thanks,
Well,
Brian.
We're not going to keep you late next week, but Planning Commission might.
Yes.
And just real quick, Mike, I didn't mean to challenge you under the 5th case.
Well, this is being recorded.
Yeah,